Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the special council meeting to order and recess it until after the open and closed general purposes and the open finance committee meeting. So this will come back right at the end. With that, I will call the general purposes committee meeting to order. We have a motion on the minutes. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Couple items then on the three items. Provincial Natural Resource Permitting Improvements Initiative. Anything to add to your report, staff?
Nothing further to add at this time.
So that's moved and seconded. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few questions here. One is the original memo we got in October on the 17th. It sounded in your later paragraph that this may have implications for environmental protection in sensitive riparian area. It sounded like there might be like a drop, but then in your more recent memo, it's more cheery sounding, that there's new enhancing environmental protection. Is that the case, that there was more thought one way and it's kind of reversed now that you've seen more details?
So through the chair to Councillor Wolf, more information has become available since the first memo or report that was sent to council. So we're optimistic that the improvements, proposed permitting improvements, will help streamline permitting and make things faster and more efficient.
Great, thanks. My second question is in one of your responses to the questions, it mentions that the city of Richmond has 7 constructed wetlands that primarily serve as green infrastructure. So I know with our green strategy, green infrastructure is one of the later on components that were electric vehicles and new builds is where we're seeing as the quick wins for climate action and such. Can you give an example? What are the 7 constructed wetlands you're referring to there?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, one of the constructed wetlands could be Terra Nova, or it could be the Garden City feature that's built just on the other side of Garden City. And you could even argue that the Minaroo Lakes is a sort of a constructed wetland in those types of features.
Okay, great, thanks. That helps it in the budget discussion. There was something related to that, so that helps. Thank you.
All right, let's call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Then we have the application to amend the food primary liquor license. Mark, anything to add?
To your worship, I have nothing further to add, and I'm open to questions.
Okay, Councillor Heed.
Yes. Could you probably know I'm going to ask this question because I've asked it every time. Who's the proprietor behind this?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, there are 2. There is Ms. Liang Chen Liu, who resides in Coquitlam, and then there is Mr. Zhang Donju, who resides in Burnaby.
So when the inquiries are made with respect to this particular business, were the proprietors also looked at by the authorities?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, that's correct.
And nothing of concern?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, that's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. Hello, Mr. Corrado. In the past, we've had a situation where we had no problems with this particular owner in Richmond, but it turned out they had problems in another city. So we did that time discuss that we would check with other cities before we went ahead and approved a project. Was that done in this case?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, yes, it was, and there were no issues that were surfaced.
That's what I want to hear. Thank you so much.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. I'm just reading from one of the attachment for letters in opposition on page 46, and the writer, whose name's blacked out, says that the address we have for this file is incorrect and that it, in fact, should be Cook Road, 8133 Cook Road. And when you put in the, like on Google Maps or whatever, it does show the storefront for Yokai Tapas Bar fronting Cook Road. So I have that question. And then also the other part is, This is above what's called the Paramount residential area as well. So is that 4 stories of residential above this location?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, we did verify the address is correct. It's just one of the particularities of the area. And I can confirm the stories regarding residential at a later time. But what we are aware of is that there are no calls for service, either by law, police, or fire, in regards to this location. It's been in operation since 2023.
Thanks.
Okay. With that, let's call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. That brings us to the Handy Dart service delivery. Sonali, you've given us quite an extensive report from TransLink. Do you have anything to add or want to emphasize anything?
Your Worship, I don't have anything further to add and happy to answer questions.
Okay, Councillor McNulty.
You know, just, I wonder if you can give us an overview of we had a delegation the other night that talked about bringing it in-house. What does that look like and who is responsible for it to be in-house? I mean, it's great to say, but I don't think a lot of people understand what in-house means.
Absolutely. Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, if I may, right now, TransLink splits the operation and delivery of Handy Dart amongst themselves and a third-party contractor for the scheduling and delivery of the shuttle buses. An in-house model would look to bring that delivery into TransLink, and they conducted a review regarding that option. From a customer service perspective, what I can offer is that TransLink's Handy Dart service right now is one of their highest ranked services. And it does have really good feedback from the public who use it. They had an independent consultant review operations, and they reiterated that and are proposing a customer first proposal that further creates opportunity to increase the customer service piece for Handy Dart.
And last question, do we really have influence on it, or is just, we just give them a feeling of what this council feels?
Absolutely, Your Worship, to Councillor McNulty, council can convey any message back to the council, to the TransLink board, but ultimately the decision rests with them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Heath?
Thank you, Mayor. Are you aware of TransLink outsourcing any other of their activities based on transportation?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, yes, there are other facets of TransLink that are contracted out, like the Canada Line, for example, is one. And I also believe there's other community shuttles as well. And the West Coast Express as well.
West Coast Express.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
And my last question is, how many municipalities have expressed interest or are writing a letter to move it in-house?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, of the 21 municipalities within TransLink's region, there are 4 mayors that have supported the initiative to bring Handy Dart in-house, as well as 4 municipalities.
Who are the 4?
If I may just refer
It's
to
on
the
page
report.
4 of your report.
What page? 59?
Yeah, GP 51. Yeah, right in the middle.
Yeah, your worship, if I may, the 4 councils that have made resolutions to bring Handy Dart in-house are Langley City, North Vancouver, New Westminster, and Burnaby. And the 4 mayors are from Surrey, Vancouver, Langley Township, and Port Coquitlam.
So would we be voting not on your behalf, but on the council half, on the city behalf versus the mayor's behalf?
No. It would be on the council's behalf. If the council wants, 4 of them have had a council resolution to say, bring it in-house. And then there was 4 mayors who personally said that.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you. First off, in regards to when TransLink doesn't follow through with something they're contracted to do, can they contract that out to taxis to do the pickup on their behalf?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, absolutely. The taxis are an integral part to the delivery of Handy Dart to supplement service, especially as requests become more spontaneous or outside regular service hours, and provide a more direct door-to-door route as well compared to the shared trips that Handy Dart offers.
Thanks. And then follow up on that, does the charge of the taxi, that doesn't result in profit coming to the Handy Dart service provider? Like, they would get paid the same amount that they're paying the taxi to do the job?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, my understanding is that the charge to the customer is the same as if they were taking a Handy Dart shuttle. The cost to TransLink is less when a trip is taken by taxi compared to an individual trip on a Handy Dart that costs $63 compared to $27 on a taxi.
So TransLink would see the savings, not the first contractor, not the TransDev?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, that's right, it's a cost savings to TransLink.
Okay, well, that's good. When it comes to a couple other parts here I just want to mention, it seems like it's not just the region, but it's a growing trend in our document, the Access for Everyone, Calgary's Handy Bus, City of Ottawa's version of this, Alberta's Wood Buffalo version of this, Santa Clara, they've all kind of brought this para transit service in-house where it has previously not been. Also in that report that was included in our package here, mentioned things related to high staff turnover in facilities, substandard facilities when it is contracted out. And you can see how this would impact the user group of Handy Dart. It's sometimes people on the autism spectrum disorder that want to have a more regular face to have them go out and use the service. So when it's a high turnover or things are not maintained as well because it's in a temporary facility, I can see the benefit there for it to be in-house. I also just talked to some Coast Mountain Bus Company mechanics recently, and they don't work on the Handy Dart. That job is contracted out as well, even though a lot of the service centers that they have would easily fit a Handy Dart. It's not like a really large bus, so it doesn't have those extra challenges to it. And then the last part I just wanted to mention is, I think in the original report it said, I lost the page now, said it was about 7% of all Handy Dart users in Metro Vancouver are in Richmond. And I think we're as a council, doing this for that proportion of the population and others who come into Richmond using the Handy Dart. So it's 7+% that we're hopefully here going to support a better overall service. Thank you.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. What I was wanting to know if you could provide clarification on is, in the staff report, talking about the benefits of the taxi use and how it's more cost-effective and convenient. In the other report, so on GP 57, it says how the taxi trips reached 17%, reflecting the inability of the private contractor to attract, train, and retain workers in a tight labor market, and it's a disregard for targets set in the TransLink plan, that the previous TransLink 10-year plan called for reducing the percentage of taxi trips to 7%. So why did TransLink have the plan to reduce the percentage of taxi trips to 7%? And then why are they not doing that?
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, perhaps I can start with their proposal being at 23%. My understanding from talking with TransLink is when they had the lower use of the taxi service, the needs of the community and the users were not as broad as they are now. Demographics are changing. There's more of a desire for less subscription-based scheduling and more spontaneous use and more direct outside of regular hours. So they've been playing catch up in terms of the percentage of taxi usage compared to other models across North America that have higher a number of taxis using the Handy Dart or the paratransit service. And if they didn't supplement the Handy Dart operation with taxis, they would have to turn down over 270,000 trips. So that's why we see that percentage of taxis at around 20% of overall trips where it is now.
Yeah, so it just seems, if you have a strategic plan and you want to reduce the percentage to 7%, and then all of a sudden things change and it needs to be 20%, I just can't understand how it could change so fast from the strategic plan of that. And then there's contradictions regarding, like, you know, the benefits to taxis versus the limitations of it. So, yeah, it's a lot to digest. But I'll just hear what others have to say.
Councillor Hobbs?
Thank you, and through the chair. Thanks for the report and the additional information. Just to clarify something that was just brought up earlier, I thought that TransLink, the companies, like it's like a corporation with separate companies. So you've got West Coast Mountain Bus, you've got the Canada Line, you've got the Rapid Transit Company, which is Expo Millennium. And I thought that, Handy Dart, and it mentions it in the report, I think, used to be part of TransLink, kind of the corporate family. It didn't?
No.
So it wasn't removed? Okay, so it is the one that isn't part of the TransLink family,
Yeah.
though?
Through your worship, Councillor Hobbs, if I may clarify, since Handy Dart's inception in the 1980s, it's always been contracted out.
Okay, all right. All right, but it is the one that is contracted out, because you mentioned the other ones, and I thought that, like West Coast Mountain Bus is a company, but it's part of the TransLink family, right?
Well, West Coast Express is contracted out.
Right, that's
That's-
the point.
that's an
West Coast
example.
Mountain Bus includes C-Bus, right? So those are part of the TransLink family, correct?
Yes, Coast Mountain Bus Company is a
Was West
subsidiary.
Coast Mountain Bus contracted out in the last 10 years, or did it used to be part of the TransLink corporate world?
It's a complicated question because there's labor relations impacts in here. But its status has not changed. It's
Okay.
a subsidiary of TransLink
Right. That's what I
as
thought it
opposed to
was.
contracting out.
Right, okay. That's how I remember it. Thanks.
And just before I go to Alexa, you talked about the history of the situation. I can tell you that when I first started this, each city had its own organization that did Handy Dart. And so you had, I don't know, dozens of these companies that were doing the Handy Dart, and there was huge coordination problems and various problems between them. And so it was sometime in the 2010 to 2015 era that they brought it into one contracted out service provider. I think the TransDev goes back to 2017, but the idea is it went from all these organizations to one organization, then they could have throughout the region, they could have a coordination on it.
Thanks.
Councillor Luke.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for this report. So just to clarify how the Handy Dart service works, is you call up, you book you say where you're going to need to go. They figure out which route is going to make the best sense for you, and then they tell you what time they can pick you up, what time you'll get where you want to go. But you may end up being on a bit of a milk run with a bunch of other people in this bus. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, that's generally how it works. And then based on the abilities of the passenger, there may be some options to improve efficiencies with the use of the taxis if it's appropriate for that individual. That's also taken into consideration as well.
Okay, and then otherwise families step in, other people, they'll rely on other means of getting there if the taxi then can't, or if they're not willing to take that ride. But you said they scored an 8.8 out of the 10, but typically to book a Handy Dart, do you have to actually phone in, or do you book it online, or how do you book? Do you know?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, right now the scheduling is more by call-in. And one of the recommendations that TransLink is making is to modernize the system and make it easier in terms of the user face so that the bookings can be online and more automated.
Okay, but so one could presume then that if they are scoring 8.8, they're getting quite a bit of direct contact with people on a regular basis, whereas like if you go and take a Canada line, you don't talk to anybody necessarily, so unless they phone you or reach out to you some way, they don't have any feedback from you. So the differences in the feedback is people aren't necessarily slipping through the cracks on giving good or bad feedback to TransLink on their HandyDart experience.
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, there's a whole eligibility process, and each individual has a specific profile of them. So when that booking and scheduling is being made, all of those considerations are being looked at in terms of the trips.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Day.
Brody, so I have to ask one more question about that survey then. 8.8 out of 10%, but how was that survey done? Like, was it online? Was it in person? Was it by telephone?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I don't have the specific details. It's similar to the practices that TransLink uses across all their services. It's based on the customers of HandyDart and their other transit programs to seek feedback regarding that specific service.
I guess the argument that I would make is if 80% of your bookings are by telephone, then 80% of your survey results should be from telephone, because there's a lot of people that just aren't going to take the time to go on a computer and try to do it. So that's why I'm just curious. But obviously, you don't have the answers today, so that's okay. Maybe you can bring that at a later date. According to GP50, the change to in-house would cost $20 to $70 million. That's a pretty big spread. I mean, normally if we get a estimation from staff for what will A, B, or C cost, it's considerably tighter than that. What's the rationale for 20 to 70 million?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, yes, it is a range, and I believe some of that is not just only due to the operational changes of bringing it in-house, but it's also in consideration of the additional capacity that TransLink needs to develop. They don't have that specialized skill set in-house, and so the amount of time it would take to transition and bring on the appropriate staff to manage this service is part of that consideration. And paratransit in and of itself is very specialized, hence the range. It's very complicated, as your worship indicated earlier. There's so many factors and considerations with respect to the different models that could be used to deliver this service, and therefore it results in a broad range because there's so much uncertainty and risk with changing the model from what it is today, and those numbers reflect that risk and uncertainty.
Did you guys come up with those numbers, or was that something that came from TransLink?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, this is an independent consultant that TransLink hired to conduct this study.
It's in the TransLink report, which is attached to the memo.
Okay, so then you just said Paris service, so that's the service that works with people who require a HandyDart, which is usually people who have mobility issues. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, that is correct.
Okay, so you get 25% of people.
Just a minute. That's not correct. You can have all kinds, someone needs to get to their dialysis appointment. So it may not be a mobility situation at all.
Yeah, through your worship, I wanted to also add, thank you, that 75% of the passengers that take transit have the ability to walk and don't have mobility challenges. It's exactly for those other reasons that they need to use the service.
So then 25% are going through serious health complications, i.e. dialysis. So they nonetheless have special needs. They're not just your average, person getting off work and hopping on a HandyDart. This is generally anybody who gets on that service is going to have some level of service required to help them successfully make that journey. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, yes, there is an eligibility requirement, but what I understand, if I may offer from TransLink, is that for some trips, like the dialysis, a passenger may choose to use HandyDart because it's door-to-door, but they're also able to use conventional transit, as that's also designed with accessibility features as well. So it's quite a mix, and that's why this program is very complicated.
I've been over to Gilmore Gardens a lot lately, and I often see the HandyDart show up and pick up people to take them to various appointments or engagements. When I see a taxi driver pull up, my concern is, do they have any Paris service? Do they have any extra training? If they've just hopped in a taxi that day and it happens to be a wheelchair taxi or a regular taxi, how do we know that they have any expertise or training whatsoever to deal with complicated potential medical health issues?
I can answer that for you, because coincidentally, I was talking to some people from Richmond Taxi today, and I was asking them about this. And apparently, they have when a person comes on in their employ, they have a training program, and they are not allowed to participate in the Handy Dart service until they have that training, which is done not only in the company, but it's also done with TransLink, or no, I guess it's Handy Dart. So in any case, they don't just go in cold and expect to be able to handle the situation. Your point is valid. It takes training, and until they have it, they don't participate.
Is that then why we've heard about people waiting for a taxi? They've decided not to go with Handy Darts, they're waiting for a taxi, and they can often wait very, very long periods of time because they're waiting for that employee that has that training?
I think historically, that comment was made more than it is now. Again, talking to these are Richmond taxi people, and you can check it out with them. If a person needs a Handy Dart, they phone into Handy Dart. If it's appropriate, in their opinion, in Handy Dart's opinion, to use the taxi, they then dispatch the local taxi, and they are to be there within 10 minutes.
That's not happening all the time from the people I've spoken to. So I'm wondering if we don't need information from Richmond Taxi, for example, or most of the taxi companies in Richmond, to find out what the level of training is and percentage of employees that have that training in Richmond. Because if they don't have that training for some reason, I hope that they do, then we're better off to bring Handy Dart, in-house so they can get the full degree of training. So I sort of feel like we can't really make a decision on this until we get a little more information.
Well, I can tell you what they just told me, and I'm going to repeat it. Until you have that training as a taxi driver, you will not be participating in the Handy Dart trips. And so they say, most of their employees, certainly any of any length of employment with them, will have that training. And they also went on to say the importance of the Handy Dart trips to their business model. It's a very important component of Richmond Taxi's business.
Okay.
Councillor Wolf.
I was just going to make a motion, but first, is there any other speakers or any one from the floor who can speak on this item?
No?
Okay, then I'll make
your motion.
I'll make the motion that Richmond City Council supports the initiative to bring Handy Dart in-house.
You want to speak to it?
No, I think it's urgent matter. There's decisions being made in 2 days from now, so it'd be great to have more information and all that, but I think we need to do what we can do right now.
I'm going to speak against that motion. I believe what the motion that is appropriate is we should receive this report. I believe that we should leave it in the hands of the corporate board. It is very, very complicated. You've got a situation with a 8.8 satisfaction standing for the users of Handy Dart, and in answer to the questions, all facets of TransLink, they do their surveys all the time so they know the satisfaction rating for their various companies and their various operations. The materials talk about the fact that of the trips that are requested, 99.6% of them are delivered and 91% are delivered on time. So it's not perfect, but what they are saying in their report is that they have identified what the issues are and that they want to address those issues, but leave it contracted out. One of the answers to why is it $20 million to $70 million more, one of the big factors is, and it can't be quantified now and not precisely, and it can't be answered right now, are many of the labor relations implications to this situation. But from the point of view of point of view of the users to bring it in-house, there's no suggestion, no proof that that is going to improve the quality of the service, and it's not going to, the Handy Dart operators are getting comparable and sometimes better wages and benefits than the community shuttle drivers for TransLink. What they are planning to do is to upgrade their service. They've got a complete plan in your materials. You've seen what that is. So I think what we should do, we can pass along any comments we want, but I think that we should simply receive the report and let the corporate board, which is looking at the best interest of TransLink alone and also the user satisfaction, let them make the decision. So, Councillor Liu.
Thank you. I agree with everything you say, and I think from a governance point of view, we shouldn't really be getting into the weeds of how the service is delivered. I think we need to advocate that the service continues to be delivered. It focuses on delivering good, safe service equitably to people who need it in our region and in Richmond. And I think that that's what's important, that it's important from our perspective what is delivered, not specifically how it's delivered.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I guess a difficulty with this, we can always take shots at TransLink. I'm first of all thankful that the residents even have this service. I think it was a long time coming, and I think for those who remember Frances Clark many years ago, God bless her soul, and I go back with her back to the 1960s, and when she came forward, we even got it. I guess I agree, the bottom line is safe service for our residents. Regardless, we don't use this service. We've never used it. Again, I hope we never have to, but when I talked to Vince and Tom and George and Sabrina, many of you know these folks, they say it isn't perfect, but it's okay. And they get things done and they're happy and they're thankful that they have it. So I don't want to really interfere with what they have, and I'm not sure our comments are going to change anything. And we're dealing with a conglomeration, but I'm taking my read from the citizens of Richmond that are using it. And I said that before. I think before we do anything, we should be talking to RCD. We should be talking to Estera. We should talk, or Aspire, I should say. We should talk to Be Pathways. We should be talking to other groups. And to me, that's where we should be getting our information, no matter how we feel and how I feel as an individual. And that's where I'm taking mine. So I'm not going to support it, but I think we can put, because I don't know what it looks like. It may be worse than what we've got. And that would scare me, okay? Because we don't know. Nobody has come up with, let's build it in-house, but it will be this. The pundits tell a different story. If you're looking, I read all 245 pages. They say if it was in-house, it would reduce capacity and wait times. Well, there are already issues with wait times and what have you. You lose the flexibility for outlying communities. You're wasting money, et cetera. And taxis are taken. I see a lady coming at 7:30 in the morning to South Arm in a Handy Dart. Talk to the driver there. Believe it or not, she comes to work out. I know one of our community centers, I Handy Dart. God bless her, and she's able to do it. Whoa. And yeah, come on down tomorrow morning with me. I hope she shows up for whatever she does in there, etc. So I guess that's where I am, Your Worship. I'm in a way torn. If I knew it would be better and how it would be better, I would support that for our folks. But my bottom line is the groups that I've talked to in our community don't know that will be any better from what they do. In most cases, they're the same as us waiting for a taxi cab rushing to the airport and we've got to be there in 20 minutes, and he's 3 minutes late. Well, the Handy Dart sometimes is 3 minutes late as well, but it does show up on it. So anyhow, that's all I have to say on that. I think we should receive it for information. I think we should make recommendations. Your worship, you're on the TransLink board. You can take all the comments around the table, and I think they should be entered into the minutes through you, if I may, at the next meeting when you discuss this.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, alluding to Councillor McNulty's questions regarding the service provider, Sonalia, did we have a chance to talk to any of them to get their feedback?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, if I understood that question correct, are you referring to RCD and
Yes,
other stakeholders?
correct, those.
Staff did not, since the materials were released and the referral was given, but we did check back with our correspondence, and we haven't directly in transportation received any feedback regarding Handy Dart service concerns.
So either way, positive or negative, we don't have anything in our files.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, we haven't received any concerns with respect to Handy Dart directly.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Day.
Yeah, I'm hearing loud and clear that what we don't have is the information that we need to make an informed decision. I would like to have it in-house, but I'm not going to support it because I think if this is not passed, then I'll be making a referral motion that we direct staff to go back to the user groups, go back to the various entities, find out the training that's done through the various taxi companies, and give us more information, because right now we've got about half the story. And I'd like, as Councillor McNulty pointed out, to hear from the users in Richmond. And no news isn't always good news, you know. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper. So I think I'm not going to support the motion to go in-house at this time, but I would put forward a motion that we refer this back to staff for more information.
Councillor Galanders.
Thanks. Yeah, I am going to support it because, you know, we're not making any decisions here. The decision's ultimately going to be with TransLink. What we're doing is we're saying we want it in-house. I think it's going to, the more cities that call for that, they're saying that they want more transparency, we want more accountability. I don't want to just trust a corporation to tell us what they think is best. I think that we need to listen to the users, we need to listen to all the reports and the calls for this, and be very discriminate about what information is full and complete. And I think just by saying that we would like it to be in-house sends a message. And I think it's important to do that. And we don't have enough time to get all of the information. And thankfully, we don't make the final decision, but we're just sending a message that we want it to be more transparent, more run by, more hands on deck and less corporate involvement is my read on all of that. So I definitely am in support.
I'm interested to hear how bringing it in-house will have less corporate involvement or more corporate involvement. I mean, it's going to be totally corporate involvement at that point. The other thing which was raised in our discussion is the cost. Somewhere between $20 and $70 million. You've got an organization that is in deep financial trouble, always has been, and it's heading towards a fiscal cliff in 2027. And the advocacy to bring it in-house when you've got an 8.8 approval percent, 8.8 out of 10 approval rating, and you're bringing it in-house where they state they have no expertise or experience in this. I just think that we have to be hesitant in saying that this is something that we support, given the full analysis. All right, so I'm going to call the question, and Councillor Au is online. So all those in favor of making a recommendation that it be brought in-house? Those opposed? Councillor Au, do you wish to voice an opinion?
Oppose.
Okay, so the people in favor that I saw were Councillor Galanders and Councillor Wolf and Councillor Heed. So that fails. I suggest we have a motion to receive it for information. Moved. No, that is, was that? Okay, so you can make a referral motion, but I'm gonna remind you that this decision is gonna be made on Wednesday. That's why we've had to rush through to get this information in front of you. And this city has no responsibility for transit. So my suggestion, I think we should think about a referral motion. Yes, we can get all kinds of more information. For what? Now, the motion is to receive for information. You want to have a referral?
Point of order, I said earlier that I wanted to make a motion to refer this back to get more information. I said that before, you just moved the motion to receive it for information. So why is my motion not on the table?
The motion that's on the table is to receive it for information, refer it if you want.
But,
Make a motion to refer it, if that's what you want.
okay, do I want me to do it at this point or after you vote on the referral? Or sorry, vote on the acceptance of the
Do it
report?
now.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we refer this back to staff as quickly as possible to get consultation with the groups that are involved, including the users. And I want to find out from the taxi companies what training they provide and what percentage of their employees are capable of picking up Handy Dart clients.
Okay, so that's moved. Is that seconded? Moved and seconded. All those in favor of referring this back for that information? That's Counselor Day, Counselor Wolf. Those opposed? And Counselor Au is opposed. So everybody's opposed except the two counselors. So on the motion to receive for information, all those in favor? Those opposed? It is carried. All right, that concludes that concludes General Purposes Committee. And so let me just, so we are now adjourned on that committee, and let me just get organized here. Now. Okay, so I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. May I have a motion on the minutes? All those in favor, opposed, carried. First budget is the library. Susan, you've been most explicit in your report. Do you have anything to add?
I have nothing further to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, you might as well, I'm sure there'll be some questions here. Counselor Heed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The first one I have relates to, and I believe I have the answer for this, and that's your physical collection, 2026, 100,000, and then going forward to 2028, you're asking for 100,000 each and every year. But then we go into the overall budget, and there's only a one-time funding of $100,000, so there's no subsequent down the road. Am I correct in making that assumption?
Through the chair to Council Heed, yes, you are. So a decision has been made to make it a one-time ask
And then,
for 2026.
so when and I've read your justification for the physical collection, so what's going to happen in 2027, 2028?
So in
Are you going to come back and ask for another 100,000?
Yeah, so we would continue to look at our statistics and our use patterns, and if it warrants that ask, we would come back in 2027, or for 2027.
So contingent on the 100,000 this year, it could end? It's not contingent on you receiving 2 more years of 100,000?
No,
That's what I want to
correct.
clarify.
This is a one-time request, and so it would be for 2026 only. If we were to come back in 2027, we would have a different ask at that time.
But you are expecting to come back and ask for that?
Yes, based on the data provided in the report, yes.
Yes, so you think this is the first of 3 years? asking for that 100,000?
Yes. But it is a one-time ask.
Well, it's one time for now, in expectation that there's going to be two more.
It could be, but anything can change. We realize it's a difficult budget year as well, so we want to recognize that, and hence the one-time ask for 2026.
All right. Councillor Heed, is that a?
Yes, I'm as clear as you are on that one, Mayor, but thank you. When we're talking about the phone system, and I understand we're decommissioning, and that's because of our IT policies, the Cisco phone system. And you get that at no cost.
That is correct.
Have you always had that at no cost?
We pay for the equipment, but we have had the service covered by the city. So as we shift in 2026 to moving to the Teams communication platform, we will have an implementation cost.
Of 25,000, then a yearly cost of 18,000?
That's correct.
That's quite a difference. From 0 to a one-time cost of 25 and then 18,000 from that point forward.
That's correct, yes.
That's fine for now, thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. Thanks for the report, and actually, on the same quick topic on the physical collection, I thought that was actually a very appropriate use of one-time funding for this request, and I understand it might come back in subsequent years, but I do agree with that choice. The question I have is on the digital collection and the physical collection. When you look at some of the figures in here, I think figure 1 and figure 3 kind of explains it visually. But I'd like you to comment on that a little bit because it seems like the digital collection is growing at a quicker pace. And I'm wondering what you have to say about, for instance, when the new Steveston Library opens, that's going to be big and new. And will that give you a better read for forecasting or predicting or having some information about the growth in physical collections versus the growth in digital collections? And to me, I always think, oh, digital collections, that's kind of the magic answer because, you know, anybody can check out a book anytime kind of thing. But I understand that there is a cost to that and that the cost is surprisingly high compared to what I thought it would be. So can you just comment on that in terms of where we're going in the future, physical, digital, and whether or not the Steveston Library is going to be a bit of a, you know, a predictor of how we're going to go, and just on the cost issue and availability of books?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, we have to balance our collection between both digital and print. And one of the things that you can see when you look at figure 3 is that over the years, we've started to shift that where we used to spend much more of our capital collection on print books. We've shifted that to meet the growing demand for digital content. And it's always going to, so we're now at a point where we're almost splitting it 50-50. And I think as we go into and we look at the new community center in Steveston Library, that library is, the current branch is 4,000 square feet, and it sees higher circulation than our Ironwood Library, which is 3 times the size. We know that Steveston is a very popular library, very popular reading library. Many people come in, borrow books, place their holds. As we increase that space and we increase the size of the collection there, we know that circulation is going to go up at Steveston. So, but it is a balance. So one of the things that we can do is we can track our print physical circulation across our branches. So we know which of our libraries are circulating more items than others, and acknowledging that Brighouse Library is the main library, does a lot of that processing that may be feeding into the smaller libraries. Our digital collection, however, we get one number from our vendors that really shows us Richmond as a whole use. So we can't really denote that Steveston Library customers are borrowing more in digital content than we'll say Cambie Library visitors. So we're not able to break that down by neighborhood or area of the city the same way, but we do know that on the whole, we see some of the highest circulation across the Lower Mainland. We are 4th in total circulation, only following Vancouver Public Library, Fraser Valley Regional, and Surrey Libraries. So we circulate, in total circulation, we're on target to surpass 3 million circulation items this year. So We do have high circulation across both, and it's a balance of meeting the needs of both. And ebooks are much more expensive than print books. So while you can go and buy a title of a book at Indigo for maybe $20, it can cost the library anywhere from $50 to $100, depending on the content, if it's an audiobook or an ebook. And then there's different use per models that also come into effect. Some things expire after a year, 2 years. Some items we only get to circulate 25 times compared to a print book, which we can circulate until it falls apart or gets close to falling apart. So it is a bit of a balance between the two collections, but we know both are in demand, and we're seeing higher and higher gate counts at all our libraries across Richmond, knowing more people are coming into the library, and we want to ensure that when they do, they have materials that they can find on shelf.
Well, thanks. And yeah, we and our grandchildren have contributed to the head count. And I just think it's really important, and a few of the libraries I've been in have been really busy, and so I'll just end with this. It is important to identify and distinguish the positives and the pitfalls with digital collections, because they're actually quite expensive, and so hence it's important to keep the physical collection strong and growing too. So thank you.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. I have two streams of questions on the higher levels of government. So I'll start with the provincial. In the report on our page 14, the provincial enhancement grant, it said that in 2025 you received $37,700. Was that like exclusively used for the Community Services Connectors program or Connectors program, or were there other things that funded? Also, other parts to that question. How long has that grant stream been available to the Richmond Public Library? And since the latest UBCM, Union of British Columbia Municipalities, where there was the ask from the councillors who intended to have the province provide funding, do you know if there's been any movement or any response or any future grant that might come available?
Through your chair to Councillor Wolf. So the provincial enhancement grant funding that we got, we did spend it on more than just this item, the community services connectors, We spent it on, we also had money that went towards staff positions, but the funding was cut or was ended this year. So we do have some additional funding that we'll be utilizing in 2026. But then it definitely is coming to an end. While there's been advocacy at the provincial government level through BCLTA, which is the BC Library Trustees Association, as well as the Association of BC Public Library Directors, there has been no progress made. The province is also facing a very tight budget year, and as a result, this funding will end. We'll continue to receive our normal operating grants for 2026, and there's indication that that will continue to move forward with no change, but also no increases to the library.
Thank you. Then just a parallel series of questions. So for the federal level, in here you also mentioned their funding cuts to the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, and the impact to Richmond Public Library was the Library Champions Program. So it was used fundings from that. Was there any other things that funding went towards? And how long has that been available? And then have you also heard anything with the latest budget that just came down last week that related to either immigration, refugee, citizenship, or library funding sources?
So through the chair to Councillor Wolf, that funding never came directly into the hands of the library. It went directly to New to BC and the Library Champions Program. And so with the funding cut to them, many of us in public libraries across the Lower Mainland feel that our New to BC programs, which really, and our Library Champions, which connect newcomers with each other and help them spread the word out in the community about the value of their public library and the programs that we offer. We felt it was important that we attempt to continue and pilot this for the next 2 years. So we are one of the libraries that is funding this. And we're trying to find a sustainable pilot because there's no indication at the federal level of government that the funding will resume for New to BC. So it's likely going to end or continue to be ended and halted. So we're looking at ways we can make this sustainable for libraries across the Lower Mainland because we see a large number of newcomers coming into each of our communities every year.
That's great to hear. Thanks for continuing on with that program. That's all.
Yeah, thanks very much. I have absolutely no problem with the budget for the library on the outset, if I may say. I think we get great value for our money. We don't need to defend our library. And I think for those that know, I was on the library board for about 15 years and see where we've come and gone. Although the questioning, I don't think we give enough per capita, to be quite frank with you, from ourselves, but that's a battle for another day. And the provincial government is always very, very short-sighted in its emphasis for libraries. In some communities, the library is the soul and the center of a community, and ours is as well. So, and people don't realize that. So I just make that comment, Your Worship, but I do have a suggestion for Monday. And I think it would be good, not criticizing the report in any way, and I know you need $100,000 every year, and it will be one-time funding, and I counsel. But what I'd like to see is that, first of all, how many library cards we have out in the community. And I think that's important. I don't think people realize. You mentioned circulation of 3 million, but just take on table 4, for example, for $100,000, how many books are we going to have? You're not going to be able to answer this tonight, but how many times is that circulated to know that we are going to get good value for our money for what books we are able to buy? And the same with the digital too. Unfortunately, we only get the one answer, as the head librarian has said. And I also would like to see, as part of a report, I know it's a financial report, but metrics are always good for backup because the questions are there. Is the cost of the additional community programs that you provide for the community, like the children's reading program, where those of us that were there handing out medals, the kids kept coming on, and the number of kids, 2 and 3 and 4 medals, and very proud of their reading all summer. I mean, that was a cost, okay? That doesn't reflect in here, and I think very often we undersell ourselves when we got a good thing going. We kind of maybe take it for granted that everybody knows, but I always take the point of view everybody's ignorant and doesn't know, and you need to provide these kinds of information on it. So with that, as I just handled at our libraries, I think we've got the best library system in the whole province of British Columbia. We've won national awards and what have you, and we continue to do so. I'm going to be supporting this 100%.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. So my question is, I'm actually, it's staggering to me that we're spending $80K on digital and $100K on print books. Those numbers weren't anything like that 5 years ago, but I guess that's because of the popularity. My question is, what do teachers prefer that students read, digital or print books?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I'm not sure what teachers prefer, but we do know that some materials are moving to digital, and you see that. There are many items that we used to have that we would have in print that are now solely digital and online, and academic libraries have definitely been experiencing this over the years. But print is still extremely popular with our youngest library members, so children and families. We have many seniors that are not transitioning to digital, so print is extremely important there with large print. And again, newcomers, and as a user of the library myself, sometimes you float between both, right? You can wait on a list for an ebook because we can only buy so many given the cost of them. So the wait list might be longer there, whereas we can buy more of the print copy and make them accessible through our Lucky Day collection. So our goal is that you never have to wait too long for the popular material.
You know, when you go to these care homes, they have little libraries, and they're so popular with the seniors that live there. And I know my own little grandson, he's only 16 months old. He's already a bookworm, and he loves to flip the pages. So I hope we never give up on print books because, I don't know, I think that's what libraries were all about in the first place, and I hope we keep that. Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion? Moved and seconded. I'll just add to that my compliments to the library and doing a great job.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Oval Corporation, the operating and capital budget, this is, we would be receiving this for information. So, gentlemen,
Good evening. Just a short introduction, Your Worship, if we may.
yeah.
Good evening, everybody. We're pleased to introduce the 2026 budgets for the Oval. With respect to the operating budget, we've worked hard to make it our testament to an ongoing mission to be less reliant on the city's contribution, to be more efficient, all the while delivering on a mandate with enhanced community engagement, being a hub for high performance, sport and position for critical GOT funding, and being an economic driver for Richmond. With respect to the numbers, you'll see our pace of earned revenue growth is starting to stabilize, but we still anticipate a $1 million increase from budget to budget in 2026. We'll make a concerted effort to continue to reduce administrative costs and continue to function, and now with the city contribution that is now 40% less than it was 2 years ago. And furthering our commitment to transparency, what you have in your council agenda package is the same version that the board was provided as part of their budget approval process. And furthermore, we will also post the full version of this budget on our website in the coming day. In short, the 2026 budget reflects financial responsible, community-focused, and future-ready plan, one that strengthens our impact, reduces our dependence on the city contribution, and positions us to deliver an even greater value to the people of Richmond. And with that, we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. First of all, thank you for the report, for information, and just a quick comment on some of the work that the board's done in the past few months. I think has been very constructive and positive and moving in a good direction. A couple of quick questions. With the projected capacity that's, it's referenced in the introduction, I think, in the overview. I'm just curious, it mentions 15 million. And I wonder, when you look at the bar graphs as well on page 25, I think, of our report, I'd like you to comment on the capacity for growth, because there seems to have been a substantial amount, and at some point, people hit their capacity. Where are you on that curve?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Hobbs. So we've experienced significant growth since the pandemic, but we're anticipating in 2026 that rate of growth is going to stabilize a bit. With respect to things like registered programs and rentals, things that happen on the main activity level, in prime time right now, we're pretty much maxed out like most community facilities are. There's always opportunities in off-peak to try and generate some new opportunities there. As far as our active membership base, which is around 4,400 right now, there is an opportunity for that to increase, but we're also cognizant of the fact that people in Richmond have a lot more options to choose from as well. Specific to membership, we do have an opportunity to expand climbing and grow on that. In 2027, we'll be looking to improve things like sound attenuation and partitioning for that space to allow climbing to happen at a time when we're having busy events. And right now there's a bit of a conflict when those two things are taking place. Our leasehold spaces, we're pretty much almost at 100% with everything being rented out. We've got one more space to work on. And then that all being the case, we also just need to be mindful of parking restraints and constraints and how that can impact the customer experience. So a very long answer, but in short, we're going to continue to work hard to try and find those opportunities for growth, but we're anticipating that growth will be at a bit of a slower pace than it has in the previous years.
Well, that's good news in itself. I mean, it wouldn't be perhaps a good answer if you said we have 90% more capacity, because that would reflect on what you're doing now. But just one last point, it kind of applies to everybody, actually, not just this report, but the bar graph on page FIN 23, I mean, when you look at the bars, it looks like good growth, but I mean, the fact is we had a pandemic, so I'm curious, my real gauge would be what were you doing in 2019? And like I said, it's not just the Oval, it's kind of everybody, because we're in that 5-year span now that starts at 2020 when everything fell off a cliff. So if I look at 2024 or the 2025 projection, How does that look in comparison to your last full kind of bustling year of 2019, maybe 2018?
Yeah, excuse me, through your worship to Councillor Hobbs. So the purpose of the graph that you see on Fin 23, that's a normalized graph. So we've kind of taken into account no impact on the city contribution. So we've had 2.5 million is the number we used across the board. For the Games Operating Trust, we used 3.2 million across the board for those years. In terms of 2019 to 2025, we're seeing the figures, we're still trending in the right direction, but we're just slightly under 2016 overall. But there are, several factors that impact the comparison, so it's tough to compare. For example, we had our sponsorship funding pre-COVID was a lot higher than it is in today's reality.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add to that too, yes, with respect to like say in the last 10 years, just on the ramp revenues, which is revenues from registrations, admissions, and programs and membership. I believe we were at 7.9 million in 2016, and I think the budget amount for 2026 is 12.6 million, and so that gives you an indication of where we were and where we've come in. And for 2019, we were at 9.23 million. So it's the growth in revenue and program delivery has been significant in that last 10 years.
Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. As far as ramp revenue, hopefully you keep going up because, hopefully you don't stagnate. Hopefully it keeps going up. I just want to refer to your statement here of the growth was achieved while reducing of administrative costs by 7%. That 7% generally, where did that come from?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, that 7% primarily came from a reduction in labor costs.
Yet we went into a unionization, and I believe it was about a 3% increase. Am I correct for the union side of it?
In terms of the general wage increase that we used, that were negotiated as part of the collective agreements, 3.5%.
3.5%, thank you. So the bulk of that would have been the non-union positions. In carrying over, when you see that non-discretionary expenditures, you remain competitive. You want to remain competitive, but is it competitive at the exempt level, or is it competitive at what we're paying the union staff?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Reid. I think what we can say is that we continue to be a really good employer. I don't have the stats available off the top of my head, but our retention rates are very, very high. We have a lot of long-term employees. And so I think we have a very competitive package with wages and benefits. And then, so we're able to have that assurance with having a union on board now, and we have an assurance as what those costs will be. And then, again, helping us become more efficient, we did have a concerted effort in trying to reduce more of the exempt positions and try to reduce some redundancies, and that's where you're seeing those savings. Primarily, obviously, in the administrative side, IT, human resources, our level of management and so have you, that's what's resulting in the savings.
And certainly from our personnel point of view, thank you very much. If you're looking for efficiencies, and I'm just throwing this out, I haven't gone through your figures to determine whether or not there's economies of scale by partnering with some of the cities, for example, versus the IT and those things like that. So there's no, distinction between it and, just an idea of those cost efficiencies that we generate. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Boy, what a difference a couple of years makes. I used to dread these reports, and now I absolutely love reading them, so thank you very much. I'm looking at the graph on, on page 24. So in the 2010 Games Operating Trust, the GOT funding as it's known, I understand from the report that there was $3.2 million that was received in 2025.
Through your worship to to Councillor Day. So that's the 3.2 million represents the budgeted amount, and you'll see we budgeted the same amount for 2026. In terms of what we received in 2025, we received 4.1 million. Each year, that funding isn't guaranteed. We have to apply for it and submit our application to the Games Operating Trust. So the reason we budgeted the same amount is we're more on the conservative side. We don't know what we'll receive, and also it depends on how the fund performs as well.
What a refreshing change. So instead of getting to 3.2 million, you got 4.1 million from the Olympic Trust in 2025. Those are staggering numbers. That makes a huge difference in the budget. I still remember our ex-CAO sitting here and saying without him, there would be no GOT funding because he was the guy that got that money. Well, clearly that's not the case. And staff have done a fabulous job, and I'm really pleased to see those numbers. So that's wonderful. I'm also extremely happy to see that the contribution from the city is estimated to be about a little over $1 million less than it was previously. Yeah?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, that's correct. That's the figure that we've put in our budget, subject to the approval of the city's budget.
Well, that's just really well done. Well, now that we voted a number of years ago to get in a new board, and Councillor Michael Wolf is now our liaison, he's brought members of the board here to talk to us, and it's been really encouraging to know more about what's going on. The one budget item I see is missing. My very first year on council, I was astonished that there was a marketing budget of $750,000, and that's just gone now. Tell me what you guys are doing to market in 2025.
Well, we assure you it hasn't gone, but we have rearranged our, how the line items are arranged. Actually, there's more detail than there was before. And so the marketing budget now is distributed through the RAMP program expense, and Rick can give you more detail on the numbers. So.
Okay.
Through your worship to Councillor Day, so the number in the budget for 2025 is 636,000.
Okay.
And for 2026, it's just over 660,000, so
Okay.
essentially
So
the same.
still pretty high, but that includes staff and everything, I understand.
It does,
Correct,
yeah.
Yeah.
And we also, we're not anticipating to have that amount expended for 2025. We were anticipating a savings, one of which is we've done some vacancy gapping. That's also contributed to our savings as well.
Is there a reason that there isn't more of a breakdown? Because, I mean, it's not the biggest report in the world. I mean, I guess that's in the big report that you sent out that you just don't bother putting into this report? Because we received like a booklet from you guys.
We could always provide you more information should you require it, so we're happy to do that. This version is the version, as we mentioned, is the version that our board received, and obviously there's robust discussion that ensues to answer more specific questions, but if there's something that council requires, we're happy to provide more background information.
Okay, and then what about, I've asked in the past, I know it's not really part of the budget, but about subsidized programs for people who can't afford the full pull when it comes to fees. Do you still have that program happening?
Yeah, through your worship to Councilor Jay, I think we've worked really hard on trying to make the facility more accessible for the community. We've done a lot, and if I'm permitted just to go into a few things. So obviously, the first one is we have expanded participation in the Richmond Fee Subsidy Program. So things off the top of my head, what we've now added is free admission on Pro D days. The Forever Young 55 membership, those fees are also waived for those eligible participants. And I'll get into that in a second here too. In 2023, we opened the fields with a $300,000 investment. What we did is we 10X'd that investment, and we got external funding from the federal government, from the provincial government, and a very robust contribution from the Richmond Hotels Destination Association. So we took $300,000 and made it turn into over $3 million to build the fields, which is now enjoyed at no cost by dozens and dozens of people every day. We launched the Forever Young 55 Wednesdays membership. It's for $55 a year. People can come and enjoy the Oval every single Wednesday. That includes their parking. And plus, there are thousands of residents with Richmond Seniors Facility Pass who are in possession of those things, those passes. They actually have that included and don't even have to pay the $55. So that's free of charge to them to come to the Oval every Wednesday. We've introduced a $10 admission rate, which is now used by thousands of people per year. Our youth climbing memberships are literally hundreds of dollars cheaper than any other climbing facility in Metro Vancouver, not to mention all the other perks associated with an Oval membership that simply cannot be offered at any other climbing gyms. We just had Community Day in August, our second year in a row, and had over 7,000 people in over 30 community sport organizations activating and celebrating sport and culture. We had the 11th annual Forever Young 8K. 11 years ago, this run was started by the Richmond's Forever Young Running Club. This legacy event for 55 plus is one of a kind in Canada and has been supported by our employees each and every year, raising thousands of dollars for seniors charities. And then most recently, we're happy to, as of December 1st, as of today, actually, with the board support, we are pleased to offer free access to the rocks for all Richmond residents anytime the facility is open. So in sum, I think we've moved the needle in community engagement quite a bit in the last couple of years.
Well, that's an astonishing list of accomplishments. What's morale like now, working at the Oval?
I don't think we would talk about that in public.
I bet it's better.
And just before we go to Councillor Galanders, we have to be careful in our recounting of history. Councillor, I don't think that was a fair remark about what you said about the GOT funding. It has never been for one person to have, to be able to claim getting that GOT funding. That GOT funding is, we have a representative, and if there's any credit to be given, it would be to that representative. Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Mayor Brody. And yeah, thank you for the report and thanks for highlighting all the things the changes that you've made to make it more accessible. Just had a question, Fin 22 near the top, the transferring of the additional 3.5 million into capital reserves. Is that before or after the 13 million that's already been transferred? Like, did that 13 million include the 3.5?
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, correct, that 13 million includes that 3.5.
Okay, so definitely jumping that up more than we've been able to do in previous years. But I'm just curious on the budget. So are many of the numbers different between what was the 2025 budget versus the 2025 actuals besides the GOT funding? Because I don't know, it just would be good to see what the actuals looked out to be versus what we're proposing for 2026.
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, those numbers will be finalized after December. As of Q3, though, based on our current projections, we are anticipating to exceed the budget by approximately $600,000 overall on a net basis. That's after you factor in, or before, I should say, before you factor in the additional GOT funding. So with the GOT funding, we're looking at close to approximately $4 million before amortization.
Right, okay, that makes sense. Just a quick comment on the Oval Community Day. I already mentioned it to the council liaison to bring to the board, but there were some complaints in the community that it was on one of the days of the Maritime Festival. And I just think if it's going to be a community facility or community, we shouldn't be competing against each other. So maybe just consider being more mindful of the date of that next year. I don't know if you heard anything about that or if you had a comment on that, but it was just something that community mentioned to me. And then just another thing is, it still is, partially city funded and it's a community facility and it's doing well now. It's in a financially sustainable position. So it's difficult when, let's say Richmond Jets hockey has to have an ice time there and at the ice center and at Minaroo, the parents don't pay for parking, and then they've already paid thousands of dollars to be in hockey, and then they go to the Oval and they have to pay for parking. So having some sort of a consideration, first 2 hours free in the evening, or some sort of a recognition of being a Richmond family or in a program that already costs a lot of money where it's free to park everywhere else, we've got to look at something to make it be equitable.
Your worship, if I can just respond to that. Again, to Councillor Galanders, nobody likes paying for parking. We're all consumers of that. The reality of it, though, is that there's paid parking in several facilities, including the curling club, including Gateway, including at Minaroo. If we did not offer If we offered free parking, what would happen is that all the people who pay for parking adjacent to the Oval would come and park at the Oval. And that happened during the construction boom, when parking was only $1 an hour. You would have the construction workers parking in the facility paying $60 a month at the time for membership because it was cheap parking for them. And so, though we don't like paying for parking, it is a necessary evil to help ensure that the parking that we do have available is available for our customers. And to that, you're also parking in a place that's underground, that's covered, that's lit. And as opposed to, you know, when you're coming to a hockey practice, as opposed to being in an open lot 600 meters away, bringing your child in a hockey bag in the rain, at least there's an element of convenience and comfort with underground parking.
Okay, just a quick follow-up on that. The Richmond Curling Club is free for the curlers, though. So that's just to prevent other people from using it, right? So I'm just thinking something like, you know, a Richmond Jets parking pass, or just something when it's already a Richmond program where parents are already paying and it's free at the other two lots.
Okay, you guys can consider
Just
that.
consider it, you know.
Okay?
Thanks.
May I have a motion to receive? Moved and seconded. Further comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Capital budget. Proposed capital budget. All right, what would you like to tell us about this?
Your Worship, we have nothing to add, but staff are here to answer any questions.
All right, Councillor Heed.
I'm going to go quickly, Mayor, because I know you're a little testy right now, so.
I'm not testing you, I'm just trying to
So
keep us straight.
let me just start out by saying, I am absolutely supportive of the 3.04. Absolutely supportive. It's how we get there. I have a few questions.
Yeah, no, just a minute, we're on capital budget.
Or, yeah, but I just wanted to make that overall comment, okay? Pardon me?
Go ahead, just go ahead.
So I just wanted to make that because I've got a lot of things to say on the capital side too, Mike, so just so you know. There's a few things on the side of this, and I'm going to go through this rather quickly. The first question is the Accelerated Flood Protection Program, and you talk about it in your executive summary, and the 3.36 million recommended for the flood protection. The question I have to you is new developments, other than the DCCs and some of the community amenities, are any of them that are near the water paying for raising the dike where their development is?
Through your Worship to Councillor Heed, not specific properties. If it's adjacent to the dike itself, the specific properties do not pay like additional. So it's either it's part of the utility budget for the flood protection, or it's part of the DCC that we collect for flood protection.
But it wouldn't be something separate that the developer would have to pay?
Wayne? Go ahead.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, yes, there are many situations where waterfront properties as part of the development are required to raise the portion of dike fronting their property as a condition of the development approval. Recent examples would include portions of the ASPAC lands, portions of the lands along the north arm of the river between Shell and Number 4 Road. We look at comprehensive redevelopment opportunities, and where there are opportunities, those costs are raised, or the dike is raised as part of the development.
So that's in addition to DCCs and the community amenity, is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that is correct. There may be the odd instance where there would be DCC credits available for certain amounts of work, but for the most part, they are independent.
Okay, thank you. The other one is the equipment program, and I may get to a few additional points later, but the one I have is the replacement of a fire vehicle and fire equipment. Now, my understanding, based on the material provided, that's for one fire vehicle for 2026 at approximately 2.5 million, correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct, Councillor Heed.
how many pieces of apparatus from previous budgets that were approved are we waiting for?
Through the chair to Councillor Heat, right now in currently existing approved capital budgets, there are 4 or 5 trucks to be replaced.
So including this one for 2026, that'll be 5 trucks or 6 trucks?
5.
5 trucks overall. And where are we on those? Because, you know, if we're approving something for 2026 and we're still waiting for trucks, 4 more trucks from previous years, like,
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the RFP for replacement apparatus closes this Friday. And once that RFP closes, an evaluation team will examine the bids. And after that, we will seek to engage authority to engage with the contractor to get those trucks delivered.
so based on that extended timeline, in reality, if we're asking for a truck in 2026, when do you think we'll get it?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, I'd hesitate to say it's going to be any significant length of time because there are trucks that are available right now. And if those trucks don't meet our spec, we may have to have some customization or engage a vendor to construct it as a custom build.
Okay, in addition, now you're asking for, now that I have you, Chief, you're asking for 1 technician, correct? Is that, and that's a mechanic for your specific apparatus?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next part I have here is the workforce management integration and implementation for my business enhancements. Now, are we referring specifically just to business license? Because I recall Mr. Cooper coming to the planning committee where he was talking about a digital program with respect to how we were going to deal with those other things. So is this just specifically related to business licenses, or is it, Grant, also in addition to some of the other expedited areas we're looking at, such as permits?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Heed, the item specific to my business is with business licensing. We implemented business licensing 3 years ago in terms of bringing it online. And of course, in that time, we've had about a 75% adoption rate where a large number of businesses now are using online services. Through this process, we've identified efficiencies and we've also identified opportunities. And so this funding really is to enhance the program, to make the process even more streamlined, and to provide a better service to the community.
So we've got nothing in there with respect to, for example, our permitting process that we were talking about in planning committee. Is that correct? I know Mr. Cooper did a presentation there and we thought we were going for, we didn't bring that forward?
No, sorry, through your worship to Councillor Heed, the permitting program by and large at this point is actually being funded through a grant, through Housing Accelerator Fund grant funding. And so it is separate from this particular initiative. They're all commonality using the same platform, the My Richmond platform, but they are separate components.
Is that somewhere in this capital budget?
The elements related to the permanent optimization program are part of the operating budget because it is under.
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Heed, if I may, in terms of permitting optimization and probably the automated plan review tool that Mr. Cooper may have been referring to, those budget allocations have already been approved by council previously. That work is underway and will continue to be underway. There is some further one-time funding as part of this budget for additional enhancements to the platform, but in terms of permit optimization and automated plan review, those budget allocations are already in place and work is underway.
Excellent, thank you. The next area I want to look at, you talk about this in the bottom of FIN 35, the timing, Grant, I think this is probably, yours is done. The timing and availability of potential grant opportunities to developer contributions uncertain during the budget process. To account for this, you've put $10 million in contingency for potential external capital funding that may become available but was not anticipated at the time. So If it becomes available, that 10 million will go where then, that you've put aside?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, once we receive funding and we confirm funding, the 10 million goes back to the original funding source. It's just a contingent, where it's just a placeholder. Once we receive a recognized external grant.
So the 10 million will go back to where then?
Right
Where
now-
was it originally?
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, the 10 million is a potential external grants. When we don't receive the grants, there's actually no funding. When we receive the grants or we confirm the funding, the grants will be allocated to the appropriate projects, and it will be reported back as part of the budget amendments process.
Okay. Now, the city owns 4.3 billion in assets. Now, are we, with age, we're anticipating that's going to go down because when we look at real estate, we're only putting 50 million aside in 2026 for acquisition. So when we have 4.3 million in assets with the age and all that, do you anticipate that's going to recede or accede?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the 4.3 is a historical value. At this point, it's really difficult to determine. It really depends how much money we invest towards capital projects, as well as transfer to the reserve to funding of future capital projects. What I can offer is the more we transfer to capital reserve, it places an ability for the city to replace asset at a faster pace, and we'll be able to replace those assets sooner.
So in essence, for our assets will go up.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, yes, the value of the asset will go up.
Okay, thank you. My next question has to deal with, well, just a notation here. You say we have 7 fire halls and 4 police stations. So our community police officers, we're saying those are stations, correct? Is that how you're defining it? Because we've got the 2 large ones, of course, Ironwood and the one here at Granville and Gilbert.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the one on across Fire Hall, it's a community police station as well. But we have 1 detachment.
1 large detachment?
Correct.
But in your report, you're calling them 4 police stations?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that's correct, yes.
Okay, let's move on quickly. Mayor, just a few more. The $74 million in Works Yard, how much that we put aside for this year, how much of that is left to be spent in 2025? And if it's not spent, will it just stay in their account?
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, Council has previously approved $100 million in works yard replacement projects. As of September 30th, about 7.7 million has been spent. So right now, we are asking for another 74 million for the phase 1 project so that it can continue with the project progress.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, so approximately $93 million is remaining from previously approved Works Yard capital project is available.
And then you're asking for this additional?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that's correct, the 74 million.
On top of the?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct, on top of the 100 million.
Okay.
Thank you, Worship. Just through you to Council, just following up on that. Yes, the 74 million added to the 100 million represents the council-approved budget for the Phase 1 program when we brought forward the phasing and the total project budget. So we shifted from 4 phases to 3 phases. So the 100 million previously was for the 4-phase program. 74 million was what council approved in that concept to bring forward in this budget to complete Phase 1. So with the 174 million, we would expend that fully likely over the next 3 to 4 years to complete Phase 1.
Okay, thank you. One other clarification I need. When we talk about this, you use the term provisions, and if you look at your figure 3 of capital budget for funding sources, we talk about provision 6.7%. What are we classifying as provisions? Would that be community amenities or something similar to that?
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, some of the items included in the provision will include the enterprise fund provisions, The hardware provision to fund the hardware replacement, software provisions, community developer contributions, and Garden City provision. There's a bunch of provisions we have put aside for specific purpose.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the provision is basically money set aside for future years, specific for future year use. For example, like what Ms. Ho said, like the hardware provision, software provision, those are specific use for that purpose.
Okay, and I just nearing the end of my questions here. When we talk about the parking mobile payment solution and the amount that's required for it, so is this the standalone machines that we're going to have in some of our city lots, or are we talking about something that's virtual, like, Easy Park has, you just go on with their app and you do what you have to do versus having that physical machine?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, yes, this is a mobile app which you can access on a smartphone. There will be some provision for the infrastructure of the parking meter, which you can pay, but we're moving towards increasingly moving towards a model where you can make that payment through your mobile phone.
So 203,000 is just an initial cost. Is there ongoing operating costs? Because I don't recall seeing that as ongoing.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, this is to get the contract for the mobile app. The ongoing cost would be through the upkeep of the meters, the actual physical stations. But that 200K is a capital cost one time.
I don't recall seeing the ongoing in the operating budget for subsequent years. Is it, or did I miss that?
No, through the chair to Councillor Heed, there are already existing operating budget to fund the ongoing cost. So there's no additional ongoing budget impact for this capital submission.
Okay, thank you. Then just for definition's sake, when you talk about vehicle and equipment replacement, what do we mean by corporate fleet? I understand public works fleet. What do we mean by corporate fleet?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, so corporate fleet include all the vehicles owned by the cities, including like any truck, vehicles and equipment owned by the city that need to be replaced through the replacement cycle.
Okay, thank you. And I just have a couple more. The infrastructure program, when we talk about traffic video and communication plan, now, we've gone through and you identify the fact that this is different from the enforcement type cameras and various things like that. So this is just for us to monitor traffic flow, is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed. Could you, which page are you referring to?
FIN 74. It's part of the infrastructure program, traffic video and communication program. It's a $400,000 cost.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, would have to refer that to Mr. B.
Lloyd, what can you tell us about this in a nutshell?
Yeah, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Heed, yes, this is the traffic cameras that are at many of our intersections. We record video and we sell that video and sometimes give that video to the RCMP. We also use the cameras actually control the traffic flow, like they can tell if a left turn bay has a left turner in it and activate the left turn signal. So this is absolutely independent from the community safety cameras.
And there's nothing available from ICBC on that?
Through Your Worship, Councillor Heed, we generally do apply for grants from ICBC. However, while we appreciate the grants, they are not a huge percentage of these costs.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. I think I'm back to the capital budget, but just a couple quick comments and questions. And the first point I'd just like to make is that the long-term financial management strategy, I think that has been put in place by previous councils and staff, I think has served us quite well in the city. And I just want to acknowledge that. The first comment is about the capital budget and the fact that it is predominantly funded through reserves and some other smaller sources. But, and I realize we're going to talk about the 1% to reserves in the next item, but it relates to the capital budget. So I just want you to comment on how when we have healthy reserves, as we do, it eliminates the need for us to borrow in any kind of unplanned or unpredicted way. And so I'd like you to just talk about the sustainability of the reserve process. And I guess it does touch on the importance of the 1% that we have put into reserves. Can you just talk about the sustainability of that and how it allows us to do $245 million in projects?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs. As you mentioned, as part of the long-term financial management strategy, the 1% transfer to reserve is to assist the city to fund infrastructure replacement projects. And we also do transfer, not just the 1% transfer, to other utilities as well, to ensure that we have appropriate and adequate funding for our long-term financial needs. That being said, we have taken an approach in terms of 1%, more of a hybrid approach as well, where if the rates are favorable, we do have done so by borrowing and ensuring that when rates are favorable. But at the same time, by having the 1% transfer to reserve, it provides financial stability for the city. It gives also council the flexibility to fund projects when council priorities come up, because say, for example, if we do go and borrow, we go through MFA, a long, lengthy process. The other thing, when we do borrow, we don't know when we're gonna borrow, so there's that unknown factor of what the interest might be. So it gives us that, I guess, financial flexibility from that standpoint. It also gives us, or perhaps saves the taxpayer money in the long run.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think the bottom line, perhaps, if you agree with this, it's a sustainable model for ensuring that our capital projects are not only done, but also maintained, as Councillor Heed mentioned, about the billions of dollars we have in assets.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that's correct, yes, it does.
Okay, thanks for that. And just in relation to the capital budgets and reserves and borrowing, can you just comment quickly on the formula for assets to borrowing the city has? Revenues, assets, and how much we can borrow, because there is a limit to that. And I think that was changed recently by the provincial government. So just for everybody, the public as well, I mean, what is that formula?
Through the chair to...
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, the formula is based on revenue and also a servicing test. And the province did increase the limit from 5% to 10% in June of 2025. So currently, right now, our controllable revenue is approximately 600 million. So 10% of 600 million, 60 million. So any servicing of debt of 60 million, we take off what we're currently servicing, which is Stevenson. So approximately the city could borrow 600 million without going through, it's called the alternative approval process. The other test is 25% of controllable revenue, and that would render, let me look at my notes here, 600 million. So 600 million, that translates to 2.5 billion in borrowing, which then you would have to go to the public for any approval on that.
Yeah, thank you. I realize we have a lot of capacity there, but I just want to make a point that the reserves have served us well and actually provide us with the flexibility to do many of the projects we've done. I think my last comment through your worship will be just a possible referral before we finish with the capital project, and that's about Appendix 8 on page 70, I think it is, and it's the submission is 7121. And that's when we're talking about eliminating the channelized lanes and improving sidewalks and corners. And at the right time, I can talk to you about, we have had quite a bit of discussion recently about some examples of that. So I'll follow your lead.
Well, unless it's the budgetary matter, it sounds like that's a technical matter of cards turning and what's best. I suggest that kind of thing would go to Public Works or even GP,
Okay.
rather than to a budgetary discussion.
Yeah, my understanding is that a referral here could just simply be that when the time comes, that it come back to perhaps planning or Public Works so that we can have a look at it in terms of the technical aspect to it, but I'll follow
Well,
your.
as I say, I think we're talking about the budget as opposed to
Okay.
the technical aspect. Councilor McNulty.
Just quickly, I'm always concerned about when we say we got lots of reserves. We don't have lots of reserves, but anyhow, on our page 43, to support the work charge replacement, city will need 1% annual property tax increase for the next 10 years. Does that mean the 1% that we're adding, and we've continued to add, to go to reserve is going to the work yard?
Through the chair to Council McNulty, not all, but also to fund other infrastructure replacement need as well as to maintain current infrastructure.
Well, that doesn't, but if we need another 1% for 10 years going to work yard replacement, where's that money coming from? The 1% that in the tax draw?
Through the chair to Councilor Heat, the 1% that we are recommending is, will be included as part of the property tax increase. That's correct.
Okay, so the 1% that we thought that was going to be going to other projects, et cetera, will not be going there. It'll be going to the work yard. It's in print then. That's good.
Through the chair to Councilor Heat, the 1% for the next 10 years is not only going to the works yard, it will fund the works yard, but will also fund other infrastructure replacement needs.
Then change your wording. Read what you've printed. It says, we'll need to maintain a 1% annual property tax. Anyhow, my next question is the rate stabilization account. There's $16 million in there, and that's getting down. I'm concerned about us drawing, we come up with projects and we don't think of the long term, which I'll talk about when we get into the main budget. So on page 44, we borrowed 96 million, 20 years. We're down to 85 on the 85.5 on the principal. The debt, on a long-term debt balance, that's just on Steveston. It's down. It's gone from 96 now down to 85 because we're making payments.
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, that's correct.
Well, okay, that's good news. It'll be paid off. My question here, through the chair, is on page 46, we're talking about a number of things. We'll continue to invest in things, and we've got a $6.8 million to build a new covered lacrosse box. How do I add another facility like the Jack Crosby project in Burnaby to the capital budget for 2028 or 2029? How do I go about that? Can I make a referral here? Because we have had a report on
So
the Jack.
you want to add to the capital budget another facility?
Yes, later, not this year.
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, that's something we could do in future years. The 5-year plan's not set in stone. Every year we do evaluate and review based on council priorities, so we can bring that forward as part of a future year budget request.
But how do I go about getting that on the books for this year so it's there?
So you want
the process.
The 5-year capital budget, capital plan. To include in a couple of years some facility.
How do I do that?
170? No, but he wants it in addition to the covered
I want it
lacrosse.
in to add. Who can give me the answer?
Wouldn't we have to have some kind of a report and a resolution to add this?
Not the Jack Crosby.
No, this is a different one.
No, I made the referral to staff to come back with it, but at Parks and Rec.
Jerry, help us out here. Just hang on. There we go.
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, typically, well, what has happened with this 5-year capital plan is that the review committee has gone through all these projects and there's been various submissions. So at this point, I'm not sure if the submission has been vetted enough and accurate to be put in the 5-year, but staff could certainly look at it. There's another opportunity to include it in the 5-year plan when we do the amendment in the fall. So maybe that's some way we.
Why don't you check on exactly what the outstanding referral is and bring us more information on it, and then we can figure out whether we want some kind of a change to the 5-year plan, or we need more vetting of it before it goes into a 5-year plan. But if you could check and find out what is the referral and what is the status of it, okay?
And what the
That'll get you
process.
the answer.
Not a simple process, that's all I wish on that, if I could, so, because it will get buried. I have no other questions on the capital plan.
Okay. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. I have one higher level question and then probably some more specific items. So first off, what's the difference between an item that is not funded in 2026 but is funded in a future year compared to something that's not recommended for funding but it is included in a later budget year? So for example, the two things you could look at are on page 173 and 175. There's other examples of it, but that's just, they're close together. So on 173, for example, the Richmond Nature Park bog restoration is not on for this year. It is on for 2027. And then you flip the page, and the Terra Nova Slough habitat enhancement is not on for this year, but it is on in 2028. So is the not recommended, like, wiping it off the board completely? Or could you comment on the difference between those two?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, or to Councillor Wolf, I'm sorry. The reason why it's not recommended or one is recommended for future years is at the end of the day, it's depending on the funding availability. So what the review team does, it goes through the budget process and it ranks all the projects based on the established council-approved criteria. And based on that funding availability, we put forward what would be recommended for all 5 years. So therefore, you will see there will be 1 year that it's funded but not future year. It could be the other way around where it's funded or not funded the first year but funded in the future year. So at the end of the day, it's based on funding availability and based on council priorities and direction as well.
Okay, so I'll need more time on that, think about that response. So the three other items I'd like to comment on, I'll need a little bit of response to, is, I guess I'll start with those two that I just mentioned. Yeah, let's go with that. So the Richmond Nature Park park enhancements, that's set for this year. That's on page 173. It's set for $750,000. I'm aware of that project. I'm on the liaison for the Nature Park Society. I would just see the benefit in having the restoration work almost happening at the same time, in the fact that there'd be like focus on that area. A lot of the enhancement, I think, would be like piggyback or cascading effect on the overall restoration of the whole site. And so I value the response you just made there, that I guess that one, the bog restoration is still deemed necessary and important, so it stays on the recommended list and doesn't get moved to the pink list. So is that how I'm seeing it? Is that it's likely going to come next year? And do you have any further comment on that?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, yes. In addition to that, part of the reason for the enhancement project to move forward earlier is that we already have the accessibility upgrade to the facility at Nature Park in the Nature House. So this year we are looking forward to improving the frontage area and make that connection. In terms of the bulk restoration project, we are preparing to go to the ACE Advisory Committee for Environment to update the committee about the proposal, as well as to have a future report to council in 2026. So with that, we'll get clearer direction from council in terms of to what extent we want to upgrade and improve the bulk restoration environment. So that's why that project is also for future consideration.
Great, thanks. Just to follow up on that comment is, I think a restoration is not a one-year, one-shot effort. Needs to be ongoing. So I think there should be anticipation that 500,000 or lesser amounts would go for the years afterwards. Because once you start restoration, you realize you don't get that much done within a year. I also value on page 171 that invasive species management is carried forward, right? So it's something that is a 200,000 every year going forward because it's not going to be finished in 1 year. In many cases, we just mow it down and it comes right back even thicker. And the next item, I'll talk about it then, we do have that enhanced blackberry management program, which is to get the upper hand. The next item I'd like to speak to is the riparian and in-stream habitat monitoring. So that is recommended. This is page 171 as well at the top, $100,000 for 2026. I'm familiar with habitat monitoring, aware we're going through a very long-term dike infrastructure upgrade. Why would this only be a one-time thing and also like maybe even reduced from 100,000 to 200,000 or something, and then stretch it off, because this type of monitoring needs to be happening for a lot longer term than 1 year.
What can you tell us about this?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf. So this is an initial kind of kickoff pilot to find out what is out there, what sites require long-term maintenance and monitoring, and then to develop a program looking forward of how to continue on and doing the work.
So it may be modified in due course.
Exactly.
And then would those follow-up works be within the 5-year plan? So could we not at least earmark that there will likely be something, or we don't want to put too much on right now, even though it wouldn't impact next year's budget? Wouldn't we want to put something in a couple of years from now?
Yeah, we can take that into consideration.
Okay. And then my last item I'll speak to here is the Terra Nova Slough Habitat Enhancement, which is disappointed for me to not be on the recommended list, because for 7 years it's been floating somewhere in the future of the 5 years, and it remains out there with $1 million price tag and now not being recommended. So I don't know if staff could comment on that, if it dies here, or will it be brought to the 2027 at the next year's budget?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, yes, I think in addition, once again to Mr. Cheng, the reason for that to go in future years is really because, as we remember, back in 2021, when we brought the report forward to council, one of the key factor is to synchronize in terms of timing with the dike upgrade. At this point, in working and coordinating with engineering, we have not get a clear timeline on the dike upgrade on this area. So it allows us some flexibility to slide that in the future 1 or 2 years until that clarifies.
So thank you. Just to be clear then, it doesn't disappear after this budget's approved?
That is correct.
That's what I want to hear. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I just have a few questions from front to back through the report. Thanks for the report. Thanks for all the work on this. So on FIN 54, the Railway Greenway Solar Lighting Phase 1, what is included in the OBI on that? Is it just, it wouldn't be like light bulbs and stuff. Is it just the monitoring to see how it's working because we're doing it as a pilot, or?
As your worship to Councillor Glanders, the OBI includes things like bulbs as well as batteries. including things like for staff to go out and, because if you remember, these are solar lights, so the solar panels needs to be clear from foliage, et cetera. So we'll also be maintaining in terms of pruning of trees and leaves, et cetera, to get away from the solar panels, et cetera. So all these are part of the OBIs.
Okay, so do you think that the OBI on these lights is higher than it would have been for pedestrian lighting?
Through the chair to Councillor Galanders, it's difficult to say because the longevity is different. At the same time, the typical pedestrian light doesn't have batteries to be replaced. At the same time, we do have to monitor for the regular lights in terms of foliage clearance as well. So it's really difficult to say.
All right, thanks. Okay, my next question is for transportation. Fin 70, top 20 collision prone intersections.
Where are you referring?
Fin 70, I said. Page 37, Fin 70. So just curious, how do these come about again regarding like when you choose which intersection to do next? I can't remember. Do you come forward to us and tell us we're going to do this one next, or do you just do them?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, well, this has been a long process, right? Like first we started with our top 20 intersections reports. We've had a number of reports in between, including one in 2022 that laid out what we were doing with respect to these projects. And ultimately you do see them here, but it has been laid out over the last number of years, what order we were doing many of these things in.
Do you remember like which number of out of 20 was the Westminster and 2 Road? Like how high did it rank? I had a family member that was hit there on a cycle, so I know that it is.
Off the top of my head, number 2 in Westminster, I think it's number 3, but I'm not 100%
Okay,
positive, but it's in the top 5 for sure.
But I'm just curious, are we, maybe there's another report that I can refer to another time, but just off the top of your head, are we planning on eliminating all the channelized right turns? Because some of them, for example, turning right onto Alderbridge Way from number 4 Road, there's not a lot of pedestrians there and it's very convenient. Like, is that on the list or?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, no, they aren't all on the list, but it is all based on collision data. I think is number 4 in Alderbridge is the one we're talking about. That turn actually has about 15 collisions due to that channelized right turn each year. So that one's actually pretty significant.
Okay, well, maybe I'll look at the report another time, like I'll just meet with you and see which ones are coming up. Just curious when we're gonna have an intersection shut down for 4 months again, we'll be able to talk about it. Okay, Fin 79, Burkeville, utility improvements. Are these the continuation of the ongoing ones that have been going on for years? It's just the next phase, or is it a whole new project? Is it just ongoing with the same sort of management that was taken in the previous sections?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Galanders, yes, it's the continuation of the ongoing drainage works in the Burkeville area.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just want to let you know the comments from the community on actually watching the frog catchers out there collecting all of the frogs during the excavation and then returning them to safety after that. They just thought it was remarkable and it was great to hear the frogs come back. So just making sure that it was all ongoing from that because it was going very well. Thank you. Okay, on to parks. Fin 126, the Mineral Lakes District Tree Art Plan. Did hear some complaints from the community about these trees failing. Maybe we did get a memo on it. I just don't remember the choosing to do the art on these trees. Like what exactly went wrong with the trees again? And are we planting more? Their trees are inevitably going to fail in that location, or what's happening?
Through the chair to Councillor Galanders, during the construction project for the phase 1 of Mineral Lakes, there were a number of factors that potentially could impact the trees. So there were a number of strategies to mitigate that, including tree protection and irrigation. Specifically, the trees in this capital project were largely impacted by the draining of the lake. So even though we had irrigation, supplementary irrigation, the roots had adapted to higher water levels. And so that coupled with the age of the trees, the restricted soil volume on the island, plus also other things like hotter, drier summers in the last 10 years.
Okay, all right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, just two more. No, I don't need to talk about that one. Okay, so if we go to Fin 172, the 5-year capital plan, under the Heritage Building, so I don't see the Phoenix Net Loft. Is that because that was approved in for 2025 and that the money's already there and, or did it just disappear? I don't understand.
Through the chair to Councilor Glanders, at this point, my understanding is got put the Phoenix Net Loft, the implementation would be pushed out to about past 2030, so 2031. So it's not like it fell off. We also have an existing project for the Phoenix Net Loft that hasn't advanced yet, so that's the reason why it was pushed to future years.
Huh, okay. It just, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember last year on the 5-year capital plan, it was on there and it was around 2026 or 2027, I thought. Like it was coming up fast.
Through the chair to Councilor Glanders, I believe it was slated for 2029 or 2030 last year. It's towards the last year 5-year plan.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Liu.
Okay. Oh, amazing. Just a couple of questions. And I don't know if police can answer this one, but sort of following on what Councillor Heed was saying, we had approved some vehicles. We approved a command vehicle some time ago, and I'm wondering where we are on that process. Because it seems that all these type of vehicles do have a long runway before they land in Richmond.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, there will be a report coming forward to Community Safety next week, seeking authority to engage with the highest ranking proponent who bid on the mobile command unit for both the RCMP and RFR, or for the city.
We just got a memo on that, didn't we?
You most likely would have received the report in your package, I think, on Friday, for Tuesday.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right, may I have a motion?
Oh, sorry, I had a couple more questions, if that's okay.
A couple more quick questions?
Yeah, for the London farm envelope restorations.
Where are you referring?
I don't even know, 170.
Anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead.
anyway, there's $3 million for the London farm envelope restorations. I know they recently came to Parks and Rec because the London Farm Society doesn't have as much capacity to run operating hours, so they came forward for staff to do more operating of it. I'm just wondering, have we considered any other models for the operation of this? Like if we're gonna put this much money into it, are we getting enough people through this, and have we thought of other models? Like, would we ever consider leasing the space to a farm-to-table restaurant and activating it differently?
Through the chair, I would refer that to Sue.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, I think part of the purpose of this next year of having a bigger staff presence on site is it will give us a better understanding of the day-to-day operations. We did get council approval to extend the current agreement by 18 months, so those are conversations that we can have going forward. So there would both be like operating models and program opportunities we can look at.
Okay, thank you, because it seems that, you know, for some of our historic sites, we've got sort of a change in demographics of who's able to put in volunteer hours, how the community wants to engage with those things. And maybe this is a new opportunity as this comes forward, especially if we're putting, you know, a big investment in the envelope restorations. Thank you.
One quick question.
Quick, yep, it'll be really quick. I just want to get clarification on something that we discussed, and Councillor Liu reminded me of this. The mobile surveillance unit, I don't see it anywhere as an item was refused or what, and I just wanted to know where we were on that.
The mobile command unit?
No, surveillance unit, the camera. on a trailer.
Tony, yeah.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, that issue was discussed, or there was a referral back in July 2025, and a memo was sent to council in September 2025 indicating, well, the referral had to do with staff investigate options to increase the safety at nearby dog park, including lighting, surveillance, camera, tree maintenance, and a second entrance. So a memo was distributed to council identifying that, yes, there is an option to purchase one of these public safety camera trailers. However, there are, and that cost is at least $100,000. There was no recommendation that it be included in the memo. What was pointed out is that Vancouver Police Department have had these units and have experienced significant vandalism of them. And so in the areas of concern, they replaced the units with fixed surveillance cameras. In the memo, we went on to say that we would continue to investigate options in collaboration with the RCMP, but there was never any direction to include those, and they're certainly not recommended at this time.
Okay.
So it's ongoing.
Yes, it's under consideration, but not recommended at this time.
Okay, may I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right, that moves us to the operating budget. Just hang on now. There has been a change. You got an email about this, and we circulated a document. Serena, do you want to tell us about this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just say some brief remarks, and in fact, Jerry and the finance team can tell, and Councillor Heed, I believe, can tell a bit more information about the modifications. But I do want to take a moment to say that the operating budget is the outcome of significant work by our staff across all of our divisions. We work hard to ensure excellent services are delivered, infrastructure is maintained, and growth is supported in our community. Identification of efficiencies, rationalization of staffing vacancy patterns, and a more accurate reflection of revenues has enabled us to present to you a proposed operating budget which reflects the city's long-term financial management strategy in a challenging environment, one where there continues to be pressures and downloading from other levels of government and increasing costs from other agencies which are outside of our control, although I think we have had some good news on that, which is why you see the adjusted budget. So our staff are here across all divisions as they have been for the capital program to respond to your questions, and we look forward to working with you on this budget this year. Thank you.
All right, now, which staff member? Jerry, are you coming forward? Can you tell us about the change to the resolution, et cetera? And give us any other comments you have, of course.
Through your worship to, through your worship to council, this late change was due to a notice we got from ECOM last Friday about a reduction in the proposed ECOM budget. The budget is still going towards the ECOM board on Friday for a vote, but we're pretty confident, I would assume that it would be passed. We didn't have the exact breakdown for the city of Richmond, and the agenda was already published. However, today, Councillor Heed did forward me the details for the Richmond allocation. So we've reduced the amount for the increase in ECOM, and the result was a 0.24 tax impact decrease and approximately $780,000 in the budget expenditures.
All right, so this refers to, among other things, page FIN 204 that talks about external senior government-related increases. So how should that read? ECOM enhancements should be how many dollars and what percentage?
Through to your worship, the changes on FIN 204, the first line, the ECOM increase is no longer $875, it's now $98,000. no changes to the other numbers, so the total amount is 700,000.
Okay, and the 27% goes down to 3%? Point 3%?
0.03,
0.03.
Yes.
and the total is 0.21.
0.20.
0.21.
0.21. Okay, so that's the change.
Yes.
But give us whatever general comments you've got, and then we can turn it over for questions and comments.
Your Worship, as the CEO had mentioned, staff did quite a bit of work reducing the budget this year through her direction, knowing that it's a very tough economy out there. We know with the Metro van increases, we're trying to mitigate the increases passed on to our taxpayers. So a couple of things that staff looked at, we have some cost reductions and also some revenue increases, but the biggest change in order to accommodate the lower tax increase this year is through a review of the city's vacancy patterns on employees, and knowing that it's been a common theme, I guess, since post-pandemic that we have vacancies. And it's similar to any other large organization. So what we've said, instead of passing on the annual increase to taxpayers, we would reduce the amount in the budget as a one-time decrease. And that works out to 0.93%. If you go to the table on page 30.
30. Oh, yeah, Fin
In 209.
209.
Yeah. So that is one of the big things. And the other item similar to the city is the RCMP also has vacancies. So in order to accommodate the additional request of 4 officers, and also the 4 officers through that were previously funded by gaming, we've also done that with the RCMP, use a gapping approach.
All right. Now, I just want to take it a very basic approach. So you're recommending an increase of 3.04% and using option 2, right?
That's correct.
And the latest version of option 2 is on the back of this document, but it's also in the previous form, it's on page 209. So then you start off with the same level of service, and that's 1.19%. Previously approved is a 0.84%. Emerging organizational additional levels of 0.32%. The rate stabilization totaling 75,211 be approved. Transfer to reserves for investment in community facilities, that's the 1%. We've got senior government, and that's what you had talked about with including the e-com, that's 0.45. Use of reserves for affordable housing, childcare, et cetera, of 1.360 as presented. And then you've got the 2026 proposed capital budget, the OBI, which is going to be 0.03%. Rate stabilization account will be 0.55%. And then and then we included in a 5-year financial plan, but also you're making a change. Just comment on the change that you're recommending for the gaming revenues and use of gaming revenues.
Yes, through your worship, we're asking committee to adopt the change in the long-term financial management strategy on gaming to exclude funding RCMP officers.
Okay, and that goes in the regular budget?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, unless you've got anything more, we'll go to questions, starting with Councillor McNulty.
Thanks very much. Can I just follow back through you on the use of gaming? how much money was there and what was the equivalent number of officers that we allocated to the casino and gaming that will now be absorbed into the budget?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, the prior year we had budgeted 979,000 from gaming to fund those 4 officers, and now they will be just put through the regular operating budget.
There were 4 officers.
There was 4.
I thought there was only, okay, thank you. So those 4 officers are paying for the 4 officers on this sheet on our page 182. It says 4 officers without tax impact, increased revenue, surplus and detachment vacancies.
Is FIN 190 the best source of information?
Yeah, which way is talk to you?
191?
180.
Through FIN 191, talking about the RCMP.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've, in the past, that was funded by gaming.
Right.
The gaming revenue came in and offset the costs. Now we're saying we'll put the 4 officers into the ongoing operating base. However, we won't increase taxes because we know we have enough vacancies within the RCMP. So we'll just fit it with the costs within that, the RCMP budget.
The request was for 8 officers, so how much would it cost to put the other 4 officers in there?
Through your worship, on FIN 254, the approximate cost is 852,000, which is another 0.26% tax impact. Staff didn't recommend it because we're already accommodating 8 officers funded through vacancy gapping. We know we wouldn't be comfortable gapping another 4, so then it would be a tax increase.
But does that increase the number of officers on the street? Does that increase our complement? I mean, we're taking the funds, but does it increase the workforce?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, it will increase the amount that you approve to be funded. Whether the complement is filled, I can't answer that.
Well, I think safety is number 1 because we do have issues, as you well know. Everything from drive-by shooting to fraud to drugs to whatever. Just because everybody thinks we're safe here, we do have issues and we should be increasing them. Obviously, it appears to me that there's no appetite to go on the 8th, so I'm not going to make a big stink over it because I don't think I get support around the table, but for next year. A quick question on the housing initiatives, the 8 positions. They were funded by the Housing Accelerator Fund, so now we're going to absorb them.
Where are you referring?
I'm looking at 182 again as summary, the executive summary. It's easier to use that it says it right there. It's a bullet or a dash. 8 existing positions are temporary. I didn't realize we had that many, but so they're now going to be funded full-time from the budget.
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, we know that it's a priority with this council about setting up a housing office. So in order to do that, the original funding for those positions was through the Housing Accelerator Fund, but we want to bring that into the ongoing base budget. So then every year we would just, over time, bring in funding to offset the cost.
All right. So the tax increase on the average value of the home in Richmond is $71 increase.
That's correct.
Over
With
last year.
option 2, it'd be $71.
$71. It was proposed 76 and now it's 71. How does this affect what you projected before, the 16.81 tax increase over the next 4 years?
Sorry, which council?
Over the next 4 years, you're projected, if you read every page, you have projected a 16.81 tax increase over the next 4 years from 2027 to 2030.
That's a 5-year plan.
In the 5-year plan. We have to look at it and where we're going. The council of the next 4 years has got 16.91 facing them.
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, that would depend on factors on the residential property costs and also the tax base. So I couldn't give you a number at this point.
I think we have to be cognizant of that when we're dealing with budgets. It's not just what we're doing today, it's what it's in fact tomorrow. It's great to add all these extra things on, but when you add them on, they come back in just like the 8 positions now are going to be in there. And these kinds of things that are, excuse me, going to be going on. So we don't want to pat ourselves on the back. We need to monitor spending all the way along and tighten our belts because people are hurting out there right now. And sure, we say it's $71 increase, but it's the $33,000, $4,000, $5,000 in taxes. And especially businesses, as we know, businesses pay 3.2 times what the average taxpayer is. People don't realize the local coffee shop or the local candy shop or whatever, their taxes are much more than the residential tax. Anyhow, no more questions from me for now. Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. My questions are going to relate mostly to the RCMP and the firefighters and the community part. Now, so I understand this. So the 4 RCMP officers that we're approving are in addition to the complement we have now, but we've also taken 4 spots, which is about just under $1 million, and we've increased the grants or the casino revenue by $1 million by taking those out and putting them in just the operating budget for the RCMP, correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, because the casino revenue has decreased from 11.5 to 10.5 million, the $1 million decrease, we've had to accommodate the RCMP through the operating budget rather than funding it through gaming.
So did we put that million in their operating budget for those 4 positions? And we're also going to put another million in, just approximately $1 million in for the additional 4. So it's $2 million.
2 million, through your worship. 2 million to be funded through gapping, sorry.
Okay, so the point I want to make here, and you articulate us covering all the positions you have at the bottom of 182, and you talk about the fact that we've had this substantial savings. It's at 0.93 based on vacancies. So do you anticipate those vacancies staying at about 0.93 going forward, or do we forecast a change in those because we're filling those positions, or we're not going to fill the positions?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, it's based on a historical review over the last 4 or 5 years. We went through it at SMT. If the vacancy pattern goes the other way, then we would make adjustments to the budget accordingly.
So what's the pattern show over the previous 5 years?
It's, through your worship to Councillor Heed, it's been steady, same amount. That's why we picked that number of 0.93.
0.93, so possibly could be around 0.93, 2027, 2028. So we've got that bit of cushion built in just in case. Am I making that assumption correctly?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, we've been conservative with the numbers, so we're comfortable with the amount we're proposing.
Okay, now on the RCMP side of things, various positions, and I know there's training positions and there's training officers, and they've got to apply to have the positions filled. So if I asked you to just go back 3 years, in the RCMP budget, what have they, for example, given back to us at the end of each year for the past 3 years? Because I'm assuming, based on their vacancies, based on the fact that they may have people on long-term leave, disability, where there's a subsequent savings.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, there's always a surplus in the policing budget, which is why we are comfortable to recommend this amount of gapping. Yeah, this budget is not fully utilized.
Do we have any idea, for example, I know the chief is here too, in the last 3 years, how much has come back to us to put into?
Yeah,
our account?
through your worship to Councillor Eid, annually, we bring the forecasts in Q3, and so any surplus, we put it into the rate stabilization account. I'm gonna guess it's gotta be at least 3 million.
Per year.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to be a little creative. If in fact we wanted to add additional RCMP officers, I'm certain we could find some room to do that, but I don't want to confuse the matters tonight. When I get into the fire service, and I know there's a notation here, there's other firefighters that are going to be asked for, looked at. I'm assuming that the chief didn't make a case for those other firefighters to come forward. Instead, we have the emergency vehicle technician position coming forward. Are we still working on that, from a finance point of view of additional firefighters for Richmond?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, the fire chief will be doing some analysis to look at the need, and before we do bring it forward, and so it's still a work in progress at this point in time.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Heed. Yes, the fire chief has been asked to provide a long-term resourcing plan prior to us bringing forward any additional positions in the budget.
Good. Well, I look forward to seeing that. Just on the issue of firefighting, I know you've talked about labor settlements here, and you've done a projection going forward on FIN 194. But we don't have it because our firefighters don't have a contract for 2025, 2026, correct?
That's correct.
But we don't anticipate there being a significant problem when their contract settles?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, we've put an estimate in, but we're pretty satisfied that it's a conservative number.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the region settlements for those 2 years, I think you're doing a good job of doing that. So the last point I want to make is around the funding for the housing initiatives. Councillor McNulty talked a little bit about that. So the accelerator fund is paying for those positions at this point. And we're saying at the end of 2027, it's not. So if we've got it covered to 2027, why are we asking now it to come out of the operating budget for 2026 and 2027? Like, is that money going to be used for something else?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, we want to do it in a stable manner over time rather than come the final year when we have to fund all 8. That would be a significant tax impact. Similar to using rate stabilization, we do it over a number of years.
So we approve these.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Heed, just to clarify, and I should have done so when Councillor McNulty made his comments as well, this is 1/4 of the funding. So we're doing, last year you approved 1/4, this year is 1/4. The next 2 years, we would anticipate putting in another 2 quarters to make up. So when we end up in the situation, then we have the full amount. Similar approach that we take to operating budget impacts for our major facilities. So we bring them in over time to smooth out the tax impact for council and our residents.
So we're not going with all 8 ones. So that money we can utilize for something else in that account.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, yes, or more likely, that money becomes part of your rate stabilization account, which smooths out the tax impact as you see in this year's budget.
Great, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just my only question really will take us to the not recommended for funding attachment 13 on FIN 258, 259. And I had just noticed that pages before where there was emerging organizational additional levels, It all came from other departments, but nothing from Parks, Rec, and Culture. And in the not recommended, there was 3 that were requested by Parks and Rec and 1 from corporate administration that relates to Parks and Rec. And I just wanted to ask a couple of questions about those 4. I'll start with the number 7 there, the corporate administration on 259. The HR advisor position. So it highlights in here that this Parks and Rec generates the highest volume of HR recruitment, and to continue to complement our existing staff and attract more qualified candidates, perhaps this, by having this position in early, we would save the costs of training someone, they move on, having to train someone again. So could staff be able to comment on the benefits that that role could provide?
Who can comment on this? Samantha, do you want to comment on it or what? Or who?
To the chair, to councillor, we definitely see benefits. There is an increase in recruitment costs and the time spent on recruitment. And so Parks and Rec, like you said, is an area where we see an increase, and we look forward to continue to provide service at a high level. Because we've seen an increase in recruitment costs and the time spent, we put forward this request to support it.
Okay, thanks. And next question is in regards to the other 3 items that are Parks and Rec requests for number 4, 5, and 6. There's Labor 2. Only the item number 6 doesn't say it includes a $160,000 initial capital cost for a truck. First of all, is that correct? Or does that one also require the truck and just not mentioned here?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, that is correct. There's no additional truck required for that position.
Okay. Yeah, and as Councillor Glanders brought up earlier, the tree loss in Mineral Parks district there, perhaps having someone else equipped to monitor all these new trees being planted, and we hear about so many trees not provided for development sites and given cash in lieu and are spread all over the place and not maintained by the property owner, but having to be maintained by staff. I think this position here might be a good one to include. So I'm going to make an amendment that we add number 6 and 7.
In due course. Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you very much for a very comprehensive report once again. One question I have just relates to the housing office, but I think it's been answered, so I'll just make the point, the 1.36 million in attachment 9. My understanding is, I mean, this is one of the major priorities for I think all of council going forward is, as we've said, the support of creation of affordable housing in partnership with senior levels of government, nonprofits, and the private sector. So I think this is an extremely worthwhile addition. And my understanding is that it does create, interconnectivity between what we do. And so I think the CEO has already answered my question, but I did want to make that point. In terms of the police, I do have a question about the 2 graphs we have, and I'd just like you to explain the difference. I think they're figure 4, or attachment 4 rather, on FIN 225. And there's figure 3 on 196. Now, one refers to a number of 2475, and one refers to 1796. So if you just comment on that that's, if you look at those, that's referring to the share of the budget. Can you just comment on why we have the 2 different numbers, what the difference is, and what the primary number is, the one that we should really look at?
Through your worship to Councillor Hobbs, FIN 196 is a breakdown of gross expenditures, which is similar to what other cities do. So it's more for comparison. We've always presented the graph on FIN 225 because that amount then nets out any other revenues or recoveries. So to us, this is a more accurate portrayal and what we provide to the taxpayers when we do send out the tax bill, saying when we collect the taxes, this is the amount on a dollar of tax that you are paying for. So it's quite transparent, and we think it reflects what the city is providing.
Sure, thanks for that explanation, and that's it for me, Your Worship. A lot of questions have been asked already, but I just want to point out that we make a considerable investment in public safety in the city, which I think we all fully support. I certainly do, and thank you for that information.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yeah, I echo the sentiments of all the hard work on this, and I really appreciate the numbers and the work at being efficient. Just a real quick couple of questions. Just to go back to the 1% transfer to reserves, normally, this is every year, it's in that it accumulates in our fund, and we make interest off of that, and that's to fund all the projects in our capital 5-year plan normally, but then some of them we end up financing and stuff like that. It depends, but I'm just getting clarification. So it specifies that we're going to need this 1% for the works yard and for maintenance of existing things. So is it enough to bring on more capital projects or to do the ones that we have budgeted for 28, 29?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Galanders, I mean, the 1% we do recommend it annually because it is part of your policy, the long-term financial management strategy. The 1%, the capital building infrastructure reserve, it not only funds the works yard, but and also annual replacement and major projects that the 180 buildings that project development has to administer, but also future projects that council has put forward. We're talking about whether it's the phase 4 facilities that you will decide and then tell staff what you want to include. And that's why we mentioned over 10 years, because if you recall, when you did approve the works yard, we said there'd be no impact to the other projects that you had wanted in those facilities.
As long as that 1%.
So it's accommodating
okay.
a lot of things.
Okay, great. So we're going to be okay. That's good. And then about the, on FIN 184, just about the risks of doing the reduction with the vacant positions. Would there be some sort of a check-in halfway through the year if it's not going the way we expected it to go and there's going to be any significant impacts?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Galanders, we bring to council the quarterly reports and we look at the actuals versus the budget. So if we see any trends that if we're running into problems, we would quickly alert you and we would make changes.
Okay, and then just one last question, just a quick one. On the FIN 184 as well, the community amenity space in Lux Lansdowne development. So this is the one across the street from the SkyTrain station, the Townline project. Yes. So why is that on here? Like we have lots of these in different developments. Like what is special about this one that it's our cost? Is the developer contributing it? Was there a special arrangement? I just don't remember.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Galanders, I believe was brought forward in a report to committee, just some of the ongoing, whether it was maintenance costs and that are required to keep on top of the facility that's provided.
Okay.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Okay, make this real quick. So we saved $1 million on the Oval. What's the tax implications of that? Like in terms of how much does that bring it down, approximately?
1 million? It's 1 million savings.
1 mil in tax impact.
0.3?
0.35, that kind of thing?
Roughly.
Wow, we sure made the right decision there, didn't we? And then how much is the total of the various reserve accounts that we have?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Day, currently the uncommitted reserves is 470 million.
Okay.
That includes 90-odd million in utility reserves. And there's other specialized reserves where you couldn't use it for like a capital project that is not within the scope. So there are I wouldn't say strict, but there's guidelines within the bylaws.
So what you're referring to is like money that's been set aside, hard for, diking, for example. So then how much money do we have in the reserved accounts?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, in the capital building infrastructure reserve, I assume you're looking at that one. That one has approximately 90 million.
Yeah.
But then going forward, there's big projects that it needs to fund.
But while the money is waiting to be used, it makes money, right? It makes revenue. I mean, you get interest or other revenue from it. So what I'm curious about is what is the revenue from these reserved and unreserved accounts over the course of, let's say, 2025?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, it's approximately, I believe, 40 million that we contributed. It goes right back into the reserves, and that's why
Yeah.
it's almost like an endowment, so it pays for other things.
So given that we're making 40 million while we're waiting to use these reserved and unreserved accounts, does that bring down the tax rate?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the charter requires that the money goes right back to the reserves. That way it ensures that you have future monies to spend.
Right.
It's committed there.
So we couldn't give everybody $500 and say, hey. So, okay, that's good. And I guess the last thing I was just going to say is that, it appears that we've done some really good sharpening of the pencils on this budget. So I'm really impressed with the work that's been done by every department. There's nothing that just jumps out at you, except for maybe the work shard, but we do need that. When I look at some of the other cities, like Vancouver and Surrey, for example, they've managed to come in with, even though they've had huge expenses with quite low tax rates. Do you think that they've kind of taken money from reserves to artificially bring those rates down? Because we don't do that here, do we?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, we do use the rate stabilization. I can't comment on how other cities operate, but knowing that things that are included in your ongoing budget, they're just going to go up. So I think it'll be a temporary thing. And I think in the early 2000s, the city of Richmond tried to use that same approach. And then in the end, you have to increase taxes even more to cover those costs.
Well, we have in the past reduced that 1% automatic to reserves when there's been a lot of big expenses and the tax increase was somewhere around 7%. So I know there's been times when we've eliminated it and reduced it, but we don't need to do that this year because we are already at a very reasonable rate.
Correction, that 1%, we eliminated it for a couple of years after we got a lot of money from sale of property, that $140 million for the Oval property. That, I don't think we've ever waived that 1% other than that. There was a 2 or 3 year hiatus.
But there was a time when it was 0.75%, 0.5%.
No, that wasn't. It was always 1%, always. And you voted against it almost every time.
Yep, it's because I didn't like that we were already at such a high rate. But on this budget, I'm much more impressed with where we're at. And I'm glad that we could come in at a reasonable rate so we can include the 1%. I don't have to vote against it.
Okay, I'll take a motion on the entire budget. Okay, so that's moved and seconded. And I'll turn it over for discussion. Councillor McNulty, you want to, let's limit our comments. We've already had a lot. Councillor McNulty.
I'd like to move an amendment to that.
Which is?
That we fund 8 police officers for this year, given that we put the 4 on the floor.
Now, what was the number again?
0.26.
0.26. But what was?
Takes it back to.
Okay, is that seconded?
Second.
Okay. I'm going to call the question on that motion. But before I do that, listen, we have increased our complement enormously over the last number of years. And to give them 4 more officers, and then we have to have the treatment of the officers from the casino revenue, I don't think that's a good idea at all. And especially, we're counting on the fact that there's going to be vacancies. So what are we doing by just increasing the vacancies? Anyway, I'll go for other comments. Councillor Wolf, on the amendment. Okay, I'll come back to you. Councillor Heed.
Yes, and reality is, and I'd really like to hear from the chief, is I don't think we can fill those vacancies because there is a process they have to go through in order to get these approved. So, I don't know if the chief's available to talk about that because we may be just spinning our wheels here and adding 0.26 to this when we're not going to be able to fill it. They're going to turn around and give the money back.
And just add to our surplus. OIC?
To the chair, to Councillor Heath, with respect to filling vacancies, we have a good plan in place. Anything that gets supported here today, due to the nature of the process, it usually takes about 18 months before we see that officer in place. But as far as the vacancy rate is concerned, with RCMP or any other organization, there's always movements, but Richmond has a very good staffing rate right now.
Yeah, and I guess the point I want to make, a year and a half before it gets there, do we have to really, hopefully we are going to have an additional going forward. But really, I think we've hit something really, really good here for everyone at this table and the staff on 3.04. That is, in my opinion, absolutely incredible. Yes, we are going to fund the police. I'm sure of it, whether I'm at this table or not next time, but I'm sure we are going to fund the police going forward. And there's going to be those available. But I think we have to be realistic here. And, for a simple vote of just saying, absolutely, I'm one for public safety, and absolutely, I'm one for other technology to deliver the public safety here in Richmond. But just for, political points and say, yeah, we support the RCMP versus the ones around the table that may not vote for this, I just think we have to be a little more realistic on whether we can even fill those positions.
All right. We're on the amendment. Councillor Day.
Yeah, I actually agree with Councillor Heed. If we had an ask, I'd say absolutely 100%, but we're not there. And when it takes 18 months to get an RCMP officer, I think that it makes sense to wait till there's an ask and then add that 0.26%. And again, it doesn't make logical sense to just try to stand on a podium and say, I'm all for policing and safety. Yeah, we all are. Everyone is. Everyone in this room is. So let's not be silly. Let's leave it the way it is for now.
Just to clarify, we do have an ask. The RCMP has asked for 8 members, right? Okay, so that is their ask. We don't have to support it. Recommendation is to support 4. Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. Yeah, I support public safety, obviously, given my background, and I support the police and their request that's on the table. But I think there's other things to balance, and one of the things is in our community, we hear over and over again that they want a lower tax increase. And so they are really looking to us to try and hold that line a little bit. I think with community safety, that applies as well for both the police and the fire department. So whereas I support the request, I think we should look at it at an incremental way and do it a little bit at a time. And so that's what I'll be supporting next year. I'll be looking at what the police submit again. And I think what we've reached is a reasonable balance between the ask and what we can deliver, considering that our community is really also looking for some tax relief in a very expensive, uncertain time. So I appreciate the request and I do support it, but I think we've reached a very reasonable compromise at 3.04. Thank you.
Okay, on the amendment, Councillor McNulty, last word.
Last word. Thank you very much. I think people forgot the issues that we're dealing with. And next time somebody complains about across the street, don't ask for a police officer to go with you. You go yourself and fix it up, okay? Next year's tax increase is 4.55 to start with, folks. So so how you're going to deal with police in the future, 16.81 over 4 years. So the new council will have a good time with it. I think it's extremely important, and I'm being silly. Well, I don't think so when you talk about the drive-by shooting and the fraudster that took $37,000 from the person not too long ago last week, and the kidnapping problems that we've had in Richmond that you don't know about it, and the gangsters that were shot here, and that live here. And you don't think we need officers. We talk about our vulnerable persons. You all jumped up and down on road safety. You wanted more enforcement, more traffic, et cetera. You know, the frontline team needs help. We need people on the ground, and I'll fight for it. I fought for 51 8 years ago, and I got laughed at. Guess what? Safety, and I think it's important to sit around here. There are more priorities. Tell me one priority that is more important than community safety. Our people are experiencing these things. They're coming to me, they're coming to you about it. And if it takes 18 months, at least it's on the books. So if you delay it to next year, it's 28 months. If you delay it the year after, it's 38 months before you get them on the ground. So anyhow, I just put it out there. It would take it back to what was proposed by staff. And if it, we're already taking 1.8 million from the rate stabilization. And and we're also, there's only 11 million left, but 0.26 would notice, but I'll leave it. I rest my case. Community safety, in my opinion, is number one. Thank you.
I'm compelled to answer that. You would think that we have no officers. We have over 270 officers. I think after once Surrey is decimated, I think we're probably the largest detachment in the country. If not number one, we're number two. And so the question is, are we well served by the officers that we have? And is adding this amount for 4 more officers going to give us any relief during this upcoming budget year? And I say the answer is no. It's a nice to have, but I think that we are very well served by our detachment, and crimes have been listed, yeah. You know, we've got a defalcation by a city employee that we're wanting them to get their act together to investigate. But that doesn't mean that the addition of 4 officers, which will come in 18 months, is going to help us out this coming year. So I'm not going to support the amendment. On the amendment, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? Councillor Au, are you there?
Opposed.
You're opposed. So it's Councillor Galander's day. Heed, Wolf, Hobbs, and the mayor opposed. So that's defeated. So, Councillor Wolf, I think you had other amendments you wanted to make.
Yes, just, I don't need to speak to them very much here, and we can either do them separate or together as a package. So it's on our page 259, reference number 6 and 7. Combined, they would be 0.08% impact, and combined, that would be 269,133.
Okay. What I want to do is I want to find out, okay, well, first of all, let's do it one by one, okay? So,
First one
because
is-
there could be different considerations. So first of all, the amendment is to add as to the emerging organizational additional levels, number 6.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, I would like staff, someone, to tell us why that was not approved.
These two.
Okay, hang on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe I'll just start, and if there's any specific details on this one, our staff can fill it in. But in the case of all of the positions on the emerging organizational levels not recommended for funding in this year, it's really about funding. They're all worthy positions. We know that we have needs in the organization, but these are ones that, as a senior administration, we believe that the city can do without for this year. You'll likely see them back in future years, but we have limited funding. We want to put forward our highest priority positions for this year, and these particular ones are not on the list at the moment.
Okay, from specifically from, I guess, parks, is there anything more to add to that? That's pretty comprehensive, what we were just told. Is there anything more?
To the chair, there's nothing more to add to what's on FIN
Okay.
259.
All right, so I'll go to Councillor Wolf if you want to make your case, and then I'll go to Councillor Galanders. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
your mic's
thank you.
on.
Yeah, my mic's on. I just make the case that I think this is a valuable position. It would save cost in the future if we're not maintaining things, if we're not watering things, climate change impacts and severity of weather. I think staying on top of it with more staff, and as I mentioned earlier, we're finding more and more developments not fitting the trees on site, so more of them are needing to have the responsibility of our own staff. And so I'll leave it at that.
All right, Councillor Galanders.
Thanks. Yeah, I second that. I think that this is an excellent position, just given the number of issues that we had this year, like with the Mineral Lakes trees. And then we had a delegation to council about some trees that have been an ongoing source of issue for this neighborhood where these city trees aren't being pruned properly and the debris has been falling into their yard, and there's been, people have tripped over stumps and they love the trees, but they just want them to be safely maintained. And I've gotten complaints from some people in another neighborhood that the tree replanting on their boulevard hadn't been done in over 10 years after some significant evergreens were taken down. It just seems that this would absolutely save some liability and some costs in the future of having to constantly replant trees that die because they weren't looked after. And just given that it's come up a few times this year, I think that that would be a worthy position at 0.04% of an increase. That would bring us to 3.08, which is also a very lovely number.
I've got a question for staff. Is this a unique position, or is this one more, whatever they're called, laborer two?
To the chair, this is not necessarily a unique position, but one of the greatest strains in urban forestry is establishing newly planted trees. Tree watering is part of that, and in order to do that, with the 1,200 or so trees, 400 of which are watered by staff, that causes additional strain to other services we provide, like risk mitigation, pruning.
But you got lots of other people doing this too, right?
We have a team that does this, but we do have a backlog of service requests, and it is true that there is a strain on the urban forestry department to keep up with service requests and establishment of newly planted trees.
All right, Councillor Day.
Thank you. So just stay right there. So between 2022 and 2024, 4,915 new trees were planted. How many of those is the city responsible for?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, of those trees listed on FIN 259, the 4,915, those are all city trees. And for the first period while they're being established, about 2/3 of those are maintained and established by developers through service agreements, and about 1/3 are maintained and established by staff.
Okay, and what percentage or number of those did we lose?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, we don't have tree mortality rates here that I can provide for you right now, but typically tree mortality rates in an urban context are about 5 to 8%.
Okay, so if we lose 5 to 8% of trees, and I know this because I planted trees in my backyard and I lose easy 5 to 8%. They're difficult to maintain sometimes. The cost of a tree, I mean, is this a city cost for these trees, or I guess anybody, doesn't matter who pays for them. If we have to replace them, we're paying for them, aren't we?
For replacement trees,
Yeah.
the city pays for them. For new trees, the funding comes from the tree compensation account.
Right, so if we lose them, then, I mean, a tree costs a couple $100, doesn't it, generally?
Typically, a tree costs between $200 and $400, and then there's the labor involved with planting the tree, and then, of course, the establishment, watering, and then the long-term maintenance.
Right, so I can't do the math that quickly, but if, a third of the trees are our responsibility and we're losing 5 to 8% and they cost, $150 to $400, I wonder if this isn't a justifiable expense. This is 0.04% of the budget, so I'm going to support it.
One thing we always have to watch out for is adding bodies. It has always been something that we have carefully controlled through council. And it has to be justified very strongly, and I'm not convinced on this one. Okay, so on the amendment to add this parks person, all those in favor? Those opposed? So it is defeated with Councilor McNulty, Lou, Heed, Hobbs, the mayor, and Councilor Al. Were you in favor of that? Or
Oppose.
Opposed, and Councilor Al, okay? So that is defeated. Now, we've got Councilor Wolf, go ahead.
Yeah, just
Next one.
follow up, and reference number 7 on page 259. It's corporate administration ask, and it's for HR advisor to support recruitment for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services. It would, as we're only looking at one here now, it's $144,699 total amount impact and a 0.04% tax impact.
All right, so is that's moved, is it seconded? It is not seconded. All right, so it doesn't go anywhere. So we are now on the original staff recommendation in its its refined form, the 3.04% as we got this afternoon. I'm going to call the question on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. That brings us to the one-time expenditures, page 261. Staff, what do you want to tell us about this?
Your worship, we have nothing to add to the report. Again, staff are here to answer any questions.
Okay. So that's moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Lulu Island Energy Company, we've got their operating capital budget for information. Someone want to move it? Moved and seconded. Anything you want to add?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Great submission. Someone move adjournment? Okay, we're now adjourned. And we've got the closed meeting, closed GP. May I have a motion on closure compliance in the agenda?